When a billionaire's credit card gets declined on a first date, most men would run. Liam Carter stayed, and it changed everything. Victoria Hale built an empire. Liam Carter barely kept his family afloat. One rainy night brought them together, two people who had every reason to walk away, yet didn't. But when his world collapsed and hers came crashing down with secrets neither could escape, love wasn't enough. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't falling, it's choosing to stay when everything tells you to leave. Stay with me until the end of this story. Drop a like and comment your city so I can see how far this journey travels. The rain hit Seattle harder than the forecast predicted. Liam Carter stood under the awning of Marcello's, watching water sheet off the edge and thick curtains, checking his phone for the third time in 5 minutes. 7:47 p.m. She was late. He shouldn't have come. The thought surfaced again, familiar and insistent, the same voice that had been whispering warnings since he'd agreed to this whole ridiculous idea 3 days ago. His sister Maya had set it up, ambushed him really, cornered him in his own kitchen while the twins were at soccer practice, and presented it like she was doing him some grand favor. "You need to get out there, Liam. You're 32, not dead. I have 2 9-year-olds and a failing business. I don't have time to get out there." "That's exactly why you need to. Just one dinner. Her name's Victoria. She's nice, successful, and she's also been out of the game for a while. Low pressure. Just try." Low pressure. Right. Liam tugged at his collar, suddenly aware of how long it had been since he'd worn anything that required buttons. The shirt was fine, dark gray, clean, but it felt wrong. Everything about this felt wrong. He should be home helping Emma with her math homework, or listening to Sophie complain about Mrs. Henderson's impossible science project, or doing literally anything other than standing in the rain waiting for a woman he'd never met. He pulled out his phone again. 7:49 p.m. Maybe she wasn't coming. Maybe she'd looked him up, seen the reality of his life, and made the smart choice. He wouldn't blame her. Maya had been deliberately vague about what she'd told this Victoria person about him, which meant she'd probably oversold the hell out of everything. Liam could already imagine it, some carefully edited version of his life that left out the creditors calling, the sleepless nights, the fact that his business was currently circling the drain despite his best efforts. He was about to leave when a black car pulled up to the curb. Not a normal car. A car that made other cars look like they'd given up on life. Sleek, expensive, the kind of vehicle that probably cost more than his annual income. The back door opened and a woman stepped out, and Liam's first thought was that Maya had set him up with someone completely, impossibly out of his league. Victoria Hale was tall, maybe 5'9", with dark hair pulled back in a way that suggested she hadn't tried too hard, but hadn't needed to. She wore a black coat, simple but clearly expensive, and when she looked up at the restaurant, there was something in her expression. Hesitation, maybe, or the same kind of reluctance he'd been feeling. She saw him watching, and their eyes met through the rain. For a second, neither of them moved. Then she walked toward the awning, and Liam straightened up, suddenly hyper-aware of every choice he'd made getting dressed tonight. "Liam?" she asked. "Yeah, Victoria?" "Yes." She offered her hand, and he shook it, firm grip, cool skin. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was worse than I expected." "It's fine. I just got here." A lie, but a harmless one. They stood there, 2 strangers under an awning, rain hammering the pavement 3 feet away. Up close, she was different than he'd expected. Beautiful, yes, but there was something else. A kind of careful control in the way she held herself, like she was used to being watched and had learned exactly how much to give away. "Should we?" He gestured toward the restaurant door. "Right. Yes." Inside, Marcello's was exactly the kind of place Liam never went to. Low lighting, cloth napkins, prices that weren't listed on the menu. The hostess greeted Victoria by name, which should have been Liam's first clue, and led them to a table by the window. Rain streaked down the glass, blurring the city lights into watercolor. "This is nice," Liam said, because someone had to say something. "I hope it's okay. My assistant recommended it." Victoria settled into her chair, and there was something almost mechanical about the way she arranged herself. Perfect posture, hands folded, smile pleasant, and entirely unreadable. "I don't do this often. Dating, I mean. I'm probably terrible at it." The honesty surprised him. "I don't do it at all," Liam said. "So you're already ahead of me." That got a real smile, small but genuine. How long has it been? 4 years, give or take. He'd stopped counting somewhere around the 3rd year when it became clear that dating wasn't something his life had room for. You? 3. She paused, seemed to consider whether to elaborate, then didn't. Your sister didn't tell me much about you, just that you were worth meeting. She has a generous interpretation of my life. I doubt that. The waiter appeared with water and menus, launching into a detailed explanation of the specials that Liam only half heard. He was too busy trying to figure out what he was doing here, sitting across from a woman who clearly existed in a different tax bracket, probably a different world entirely. The menu didn't have prices, which he'd learned from one disastrous anniversary dinner years ago, meant they were the kind of prices you didn't ask about if you had to ask about them. When the waiter left, Victoria was watching him. "You look uncomfortable," she said. "I'm fine. You're gripping that menu like it insulted your family." Liam set it down, exhaled. I don't know what I'm doing here." "That makes 2 of us. You seem like you have it together." "I'm very good at seeming." Victoria leaned back slightly, and some of that careful control softened. "Can I be honest with you?" "Please." "I almost canceled tonight, 3 times. I had my assistant draft an excuse email and everything." "Why didn't you?" "I'm not sure. Maybe I was tired of my own excuses." She picked up her water glass, set it down without drinking. "My life is complicated and very isolated. I work constantly. I don't have many people I trust, and the ones I do trust keep telling me I need to do something that isn't work. So here I am, doing something that isn't work." "How's it going so far?" "Ask me in an hour." Despite himself, Liam smiled. There was something refreshing about her directness, the way she wasn't pretending this was anything other than what it was. 2 people trying to figure out if they could stand each other's company for the length of a meal. "I should tell you up front," he said. "I have 2 daughters, twins. They're 9. Maya mentioned that. It's kind of a package deal situation. I'd expect nothing less." Victoria tilted her head slightly. "Does that usually scare people off?" "Sometimes. Or it should." Liam ran his thumb along the edge of his water glass. "Their mom left when they were 2. It's been just us for a long time. They're good kids, but they're also the center of my entire life. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for this. This being terrible first dates with strangers. Among other things." The waiter returned and they ordered. Liam chose something mid-range that wouldn't bankrupt him if this went sideways, Victoria ordered without looking at the menu. When they were alone again, she folded her hands on the table and looked at him directly. "I appreciate you telling me about your daughters," she said. "For what it's worth, I don't scare easily." "What do you do?" Liam asked. Maya was vague about that too. "I run a company, investment and development, mostly commercial real estate." "That sounds impressive." "It's time-consuming." She said it without pride or complaint, just fact. "I took over the company when I was 26. It's been 4 years of learning on the job, I guess you'd say. I'm good at it now, but it takes up most of my life." "Do you like it?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. "I don't think about it in those terms. It's what I do. What I've always done." "That's not an answer." "No," Victoria said quietly. "I suppose it's not." Their food arrived before he could push further, and for a while they ate in the kind of silence that could go either way. Companionable or awkward. It was too early to tell. Liam watched her when he thought she wasn't looking, trying to figure out what Maya had been thinking, setting them up. Victoria Hale was polished in a way that suggested years of practice. The kind of person who'd probably never had a credit card declined or stayed up at night running numbers that wouldn't add up no matter how many times she checked them. And yet, there was something in the way she held herself, a kind of careful distance that felt familiar, like she was used to being alone even in rooms full of people. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "Sure." "Why did you say yes to tonight?" Liam set down his fork. "Honestly, my sister wore me down. She's persistent." "That's the only reason?" He thought about it. About the twins asking when he was going to meet someone nice, about the empty side of his bed, about the way he'd started to forget what it felt like to be seen as anything other than dad or the guy whose business was failing. "No," he said. That's not the only reason. What's the other reason? I'm tired of being alone. The honesty surprised him as much as it seemed to surprise her. Victoria's expression shifted, something unguarded flickering across her face before she could smooth it away. Yeah, she said softly. Me too. They talked more easily after that. Small things at first, favorite books, worst movies they'd ever seen, the specific kind of hell that was Seattle traffic. Victoria had a dry sense of humor that snuck up on him, and he found himself actually laughing at one point, the sound rusty from disuse. She asked about his daughters, and he told her about Sophie's obsession with astronomy and Emma's determination to adopt every stray animal in a 5-mile radius. They sound wonderful, Victoria said. They're exhausting, but yeah, they're pretty great. Do they know you're here tonight? They know I'm having dinner with a friend. I didn't want to make it a big thing in case it... He trailed off. Crashed and burned? Something like that. And has it? Crashed and burned? Liam looked at her, really looked at her. This woman he'd expected to have nothing in common with, who'd surprised him at every turn. Not yet. High praise. I'm setting a low bar. Victoria smiled, and it was the first truly relaxed expression he'd seen from her all night. Smart man. Dessert came and went. Coffee arrived. The restaurant had emptied out around them without either of them noticing, and when Liam checked his phone, he was startled to see it was nearly 10:30. 3 hours had passed in what felt like 30 minutes. I should probably... Victoria gestured vaguely toward the door. Right, yeah. The waiter brought the check in a small leather folder and set it between them. Liam reached for it at the same time Victoria did, their hands nearly colliding. I've got it, she said. We can split... Liam, I asked you here. Let me get this one. There was something in her tone that suggested she wasn't used to people arguing with her, so Liam sat back and let her take the folder. She pulled out a credit card, matte black, the kind he'd only seen in movies, and slipped it into the folder without looking at the total. The waiter took it away. They sat in that strange post-meal limbo, not quite ready to leave, but out of obvious things to say. Liam was trying to figure out how to ask if she wanted to do this again when the waiter returned. He leaned down and said something quiet to Victoria. Liam watched her expression shift, confusion first, then something that might have been embarrassment. I'm sorry, the waiter said, louder now. The card was declined. Do you have another form of payment? The words hung in the air like a record scratch. Victoria's face went carefully blank. That's not possible. Try it again. I did, ma'am. It declined twice. There must be some mistake. Liam watched the whole thing unfold in slow motion. The waiter's apologetic discomfort, Victoria's frozen composure starting to crack at the edges, the way her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her purse again. Whatever was happening, it was clear she hadn't expected it, and the humiliation rolling off her was almost painful to witness. He didn't think. He just moved. Actually, Liam said, pulling out his own wallet, I've got this. Liam, it's fine, really. He handed his card to the waiter before Victoria could protest further. The waiter took it gratefully and disappeared, probably relieved to escape the awkwardness. Silence crashed down. Victoria stared at the table, her jaw tight. You didn't have to do that. I know. I'll pay you back. There's clearly some kind of freeze on my accounts. This doesn't make sense. I'll have it sorted out tomorrow. Victoria. He waited until she looked at him. It's fine. Seriously, it's just dinner. It's not just dinner. Her voice was low, controlled, but he could hear the strain underneath. You have no idea how much I... She stopped, pressed her lips together. Thank you. The waiter returned with Liam's card and receipt. They signed in silence and gathered their things. The easy comfort from earlier evaporated. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the streets were still slick, reflecting the city lights in fractured patterns. Victoria's car was already waiting. Of course it was. I apologize for that, she said, not quite meeting his eyes. That was embarrassing. It happens. Not to me, it doesn't. Well, first time for everything. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and Liam saw something he recognized, the specific shame of having your private struggles exposed in public, of the universe choosing the exact wrong moment to reveal that you're not as in control as you pretend to be. You didn't have to be kind about it, Victoria said quietly. I wanted to be. Why? Because I know what it feels like to be humiliated by money, he thought. Because you look like you wanted to disappear, and I've been there too many times to count. Because for 3 hours you made me feel like maybe I wasn't completely drowning. Because it was the right thing to do, he said instead. Victoria studied him for a long moment. Then, surprising him, she smiled, small and sad and genuine. Maya was right. You are worth meeting. Does that mean you'd want to do this again? Even after that disaster? Especially after that disaster. She laughed, and it sounded almost startled, like she'd forgotten she could. Okay, yes, I'd like that. No fancy restaurants next time. Coffee, maybe. Something less likely to end in public humiliation for either of us. Deal. They exchanged numbers, and Victoria's driver, who'd been waiting patiently by the car, opened the door for her. She paused before getting in. Liam, thank you, really. Anytime. He watched her car pull away, then stood on the sidewalk for a minute, trying to process what had just happened. His phone buzzed with a text from Maya. How did it go? Liam typed back. Complicated. I'll call you tomorrow. The truth was, he didn't know how it went. The whole night had been strange. Good strange, mostly, but strange. Victoria Hale was not what he'd expected. She was guarded and clearly carrying things she didn't talk about, but there had been moments when that guard slipped and he'd seen something real underneath. Something lonely and tired, and maybe, possibly, interested. His phone buzzed again. Did you get a second date? Maybe. I think so. That's my boy. Details tomorrow. Love you. Liam pocketed his phone and started walking toward where he'd parked, 6 blocks away, because parking near Marcello's cost more than his monthly coffee budget. The city was quiet, washed clean by the rain, and he let himself think about Victoria's smile when she'd said yes to seeing him again, about the way her hand had shaken when her card was declined, and how quickly she'd tried to hide it, about the careful distance in her eyes and the moments when it had slipped. He was halfway to his car when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Carter? A man's voice, unfamiliar. Yeah, who's this? This is Richard Chen from North Point Investments. I'm calling about your loan application. Liam's stomach dropped. Okay. I'm afraid I have some bad news. We've decided not to move forward with funding. The risk assessment came back higher than we're comfortable with, given the current state of your business metrics. Wait, I can send updated projections. The numbers are better than they look. I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. The decision is final. I wish you the best of luck with your business. The call ended. Liam stood there on the empty sidewalk, phone still pressed to his ear, feeling the bottom drop out of what had been starting to feel like maybe, possibly, an okay night. North Point had been his last shot. 3 months of applications, revised proposals, humiliating interviews where he'd had to explain exactly why his small community development firm was worth the risk. They'd been his Hail Mary, and he'd actually started to believe they might say yes. He should have known better. His phone buzzed with an email notification, probably the formal rejection letter, because the universe wasn't done kicking him yet. He opened it without thinking. It wasn't from North Point. From Victoria Hale. Subject. Tonight, Liam, I wanted to reach out before I lost my nerve. I'm not good at this, at being honest, at letting people in. Tonight was difficult in ways I didn't expect, but also good in ways I didn't expect either. You were kind when you didn't have to be, and you didn't ask questions when you easily could have. I'd like to see you again. Actually, I'd like to see you soon if you're open to it. Coffee this week? My treat, though I promise to verify my cards are working first. Thank you for tonight, for all of it. V. Liam read it twice, then a third time. The email was careful and clearly edited, but underneath the formality he could hear her voice, uncertain, hopeful, trying. He typed back before he could overthink it. Victoria, coffee sounds perfect. How's Thursday? Liam P.S. Bring whatever payment method you want. I'm buying. Her response came back within a minute. Thursday works. 7 a.m.? I know it's early, but I have meetings all day. And we'll see about who's buying. Liam smiled despite the rejection letter waiting in his inbox, despite the drowning feeling that had been his constant companion for months. He felt it anyway. A small, fragile thing that might have been hope. He made it to his car, drove home through empty streets, and let himself into the too-quiet house. Maya was staying over with the twins tonight, giving him space for the date, which meant he came home to silence and a sink full of dishes he'd meant to wash that morning. He stood in his kitchen, still wearing the shirt that had felt wrong all night, and pulled up Victoria's email again. "You were kind when you didn't have to be." Liam thought about her face when her card declined, the way she'd tried to hide her embarrassment behind that careful control. He thought about the whole dinner, the slow unfolding of someone who didn't let people in easily, but who'd tried with him anyway. Then he thought about the call from North Point, about the red numbers in his business account, about the fact that he was probably 6 months from losing everything he'd built. He should cancel Thursday. He should back out now before this got complicated, before Victoria found out exactly how messy his life was and made the smart choice to walk away. He should protect her from the disaster his life was actively becoming. He didn't, though. Instead, he opened his calendar and blocked off Thursday at 7 a.m., then went upstairs to the twins' room and stood in the doorway, looking at their empty beds. Sophie's star charts on the wall, Emma's collection of random rocks on the dresser. The life he'd built despite everything. The reasons he kept fighting even when fighting felt pointless. He'd go to coffee on Thursday. He'd let himself have this one thing, just for a little while, before reality crashed in and reminded him exactly where he stood. His phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. "This is Victoria. Just wanted to say goodnight. Thank you again for tonight." Liam saved her number and typed back. "Good night, Victoria. See you Thursday." He stood there for a while, phone in hand, trying to figure out what he'd just gotten himself into. Dating a woman who ran a company while his was falling apart. Getting close to someone when he barely had the energy to keep his own head above water. Letting himself hope when hope had kicked his ass too many times to count. But he thought about her smile when she'd said yes to coffee, and the way she'd looked at him when he hadn't made her feel small for something that wasn't her fault, and the careful honesty in her email. Maybe it was stupid. Probably it was stupid. But he was going to show up anyway. Thursday morning came too fast and not fast enough. Liam had replayed the dinner with Victoria about 50 times in his head by the time he pulled into the parking lot of the coffee shop she'd suggested. A place called Ember, tucked into a corner of downtown he didn't usually have reason to visit. Through the window he could see exposed brick, Edison bulbs, the kind of carefully curated aesthetic that suggested the coffee cost twice what it should. He was early. 10 minutes early, which meant he had 10 minutes to sit in his car and question every decision that had led him here. His phone rang. Maya, because of course it was. "You're calling at 6:55 in the morning," Liam said by way of greeting. "I wanted to catch you before. Are you there yet?" "I'm in the parking lot." "Don't you dare bail." "I'm not bailing." "You sound like you're about to bail." Liam leaned his head back against the seat. "I got rejected by North Point." Silence on the other end. Then quieter. "When?" "Monday night, after the dinner." "Liam, why didn't you call me?" "Because I didn't want to hear you tell me it's going to be okay when we both know it's not." He watched a woman walk past his car, coffee in hand, completely oblivious to the small crisis happening inside his Honda. "North Point was the last option, Maya. I'm out of options." "That's not true." "It is true. I've exhausted every loan, every grant, every investor who might have looked twice at a small community development firm run by a guy with no safety net. I'm done." "Then pivot. Find a new direction." "With what money? What time?" He heard the bitterness in his own voice and hated it. "I can't keep doing this. The twins deserve better than watching me fail in slow motion." "The twins are fine. They have you, and you're not failing." "I'm about to lose the business, Maya." "Then lose it. Start over. You've done it before." "I had less to lose before." Liam checked the time, 6:58. "I should go." "Are you going to tell her, Victoria?" "Tell her what?" "That I'm a disaster? I'm sure she'll figure it out eventually." "Stop it. You're not a disaster. You're having a hard time. There's a difference." Maya's voice softened. "You liked her, didn't you? At dinner." Liam thought about Victoria's careful smile, the way she'd tried to hide her embarrassment and failed, the email she'd sent, honest and uncertain and brave in a way he hadn't expected. "Yeah," he said. "I liked her." Then go in there and let yourself have one good thing. You're allowed to have good things, Liam, even when everything else is hard. He wanted to argue, to list all the reasons why he shouldn't be sitting in this parking lot about to have coffee with a woman who existed in a completely different stratosphere of success. But Maya had already hung up, probably knowing he'd overthink it if she gave him the chance. 7 a.m. Liam got out of the car. Inside, Ember was exactly as pretentious as he'd expected, but also warm and quieter than the chain places he usually hit. A handful of people scattered at tables, laptops open, the low murmur of a Thursday morning in progress. He scanned the room and found Victoria already there, tucked into a corner table with 2 cups in front of her. She saw him and waved, and something in Liam's chest loosened. "You're late," Victoria said when he reached the table, but she was smiling. "It's 7:02. I've been here since 6:45. In my world, that makes you late." She pushed one of the cups toward him. "I got you an Americano. I realized after I ordered that I have no idea how you take your coffee, so I also got cream and sugar just in case." Liam sat down, picking up the cup. "Black's fine. Thank you." "How very masculine of you." "I'm full of surprises." They sat there for a moment, the strange intimacy of early morning settling around them. Victoria looked different than she had Monday night, still put together, but softer somehow. Dark slacks and a cream sweater, hair down around her shoulders. Less armor, maybe. Or maybe he was reading into things. "Thank you for meeting me so early," she said. "I know it's ridiculous." "It's fine. I'm usually up with the twins by 6 anyway." "How are they?" "The twins. Loud. Opinionated. Currently in a phase where they think vegetables are a personal attack." He wrapped his hands around the cup, absorbing the warmth. "They asked me where I was Monday night." "What did you tell them?" "That I was having dinner with a friend. Sophie wanted to know if the friend was a girl, and when I said yes, she and Emma spent 20 minutes planning our wedding." Victoria laughed, and it was easier than Monday, less guarded. "That's a lot of pressure for a second date." "They're efficient planners, very practical. Emma wants doves." "Of course she does." Liam took a sip of coffee, watching her over the rim. She seemed lighter this morning, or maybe just less careful. He wanted to ask about Monday night, about the declined card and whatever had caused it, but he also didn't want to push. If she wanted to tell him, she would. "I sorted out the issue with my accounts," Victoria said, like she'd read his mind. "It was a freeze related to some corporate restructuring. My CFO forgot to notify the banks about the entity changes." She said it casually, but there was tension underneath. "Embarrassing, but resolved. I wasn't worried about it." "I was." She turned her cup in small circles on the table. "I don't like being out of control. And I really don't like being embarrassed in public." "You hit it well. I'm very good at hiding things." The honesty caught him off guard again, the way it had Monday night. Most people didn't lead with their damage this early. Then again, most people didn't have their credit card declined on a first date. "Can I ask you something?" Liam said. "Sure." "Why did you say yes to meeting me? The first time, I mean. You don't seem like someone who does blind dates set up by mutual friends." Victoria considered this, her fingers still moving the cup in slow rotations. "I don't. Usually I just work. It's easier than dealing with people who want something from me or who have expectations I can't meet." She looked up at him. "But Maya was persistent, and when she told me about you, about your daughters and your business, you sounded real. Does that make sense?" "Not really. Most people in my life aren't real. They're strategic relationships or networking opportunities or people who want access to my money. You were just a person, a regular person doing regular things, trying to get by. It sounded nice. I hate to break it to you, but I'm not that interesting." "That's exactly what makes you interesting." They talked for over an hour. Victoria asked about his business, what it did, why he'd started it, what kept him up at night. Liam found himself being more honest than he'd planned, telling her about the community projects that had worked and the ones that hadn't, about his conviction that good development could actually help neighborhoods instead of destroying them, about how impossible it was to fund that kind of work when investors only cared about maximum return. "That's why you needed North Point," Victoria said. It wasn't a question. Liam went still. "How did you know about North Point?" "I didn't. You just told me." She leaned forward slightly. "What happened?" He should have deflected. Should have changed the subject or made a joke or done anything other than tell this woman he barely knew about his latest failure. But her eyes were steady and genuinely curious, and he was so tired of pretending everything was fine. They rejected me. Monday night, actually. About an hour after I got home from dinner. I'm sorry. It's fine. I'm used to it. That doesn't make it easier. No, Liam admitted. It doesn't. Victoria was quiet for a moment, studying him with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. Can I ask what you needed the funding for? So he told her. About the project he'd been trying to get off the ground for 8 months. A mixed-use development in a neighborhood that desperately needed investment but couldn't attract it through traditional channels. Affordable housing mixed with commercial space, community centers, green space. The kind of project that would actually help people instead of displacing them. It's a good model, Liam said. I know it is. But it's not profitable enough fast enough for anyone to take it seriously. And without capital, I can't prove the concept works. So I'm stuck. How much do you need? The question was so casual it took him a second to process it. I'm not asking you for money, Liam said quickly. I didn't think you were. I'm asking because I'm curious. Victoria. Liam, I run an investment and development company. This is literally what I do all day. Humor me. He should have shut it down. Should have changed the subject or made it clear he wasn't looking for a handout. But there was something in her expression, genuine interest maybe, or the kind of focus she probably brought to every business conversation. 2.3 million to start, he said, for the first phase. Victoria didn't blink. That's not unreasonable for what you're describing. It is when you don't have collateral or a track record of major projects. But you have the vision and the community relationships. That doesn't spend like cash. She smiled at that, small and knowing. No, it doesn't. She pulled out her phone, typed something quickly, then set it aside. What if I told you I might know some people who'd be interested in this kind of project? I'd say you're being nice and I appreciate it, but I've exhausted pretty much every contact I have. Have you exhausted mine? Liam stared at her. We've known each other for 4 days. 3.5, technically. Victoria, I'm not offering to write you a check, if that's what you're worried about. I'm saying I know people who invest in community development, and I could make an introduction. No promises, no guarantees, just a conversation. She held his gaze. Would that be okay? Every instinct told him to say no. To keep his failing business separate from whatever this was with her, to not mix the personal disaster with the potential of something good. But he also thought about the twins, about the employees he'd had to let go last month, about the community members who'd been counting on him to follow through. Okay, Liam said. Yeah, that would be okay. Good. I'll make some calls. Victoria checked her watch and winced. I have to get to the office, but this was nice. It was. They stood, and there was an awkward moment where neither of them knew quite how to end this. A hug seemed too much, a handshake too formal. Victoria solved it by touching his arm briefly, a gesture that was over before he could read too much into it. Can I see you again? She asked. Outside of early morning coffee interrogations? You're the one with the impossible schedule. I'll make time. She hesitated, then added, Would you want to have dinner? At my place, maybe? This weekend? You cook? I have people who cook, but yes, I can extend an invitation to my home without it being a disaster. Liam thought about what Maya would say if he turned this down, what the twins would say, what he'd say to himself if he let fear talk him out of this. Saturday? He offered. Saturday works. I'll text you the address. She left before he could second-guess it, and Liam stood there in ember with his empty coffee cup, trying to process what had just happened. Victoria Hale had just offered to help him save his business, or at least make introductions that might save his business, and she'd invited him to her home. His phone buzzed. Maya. How did it go? Liam. Good, really good. Maya. Details. Liam. Later. I have to get to the office. Maya. You're smiling, aren't you, Liam? Shut up. Maya. I knew it. He drove to his office, a small space above a print shop that cost half what it should and still felt too expensive, and spent the morning trying to focus on actual work. Invoice management, emails to contractors, the tedious maintenance of a business that was slowly bleeding out. Around noon, his phone rang. Unknown number again. He almost didn't answer. "This is Liam." "Mr. Carter, this is Jennifer Park from Meridian Capital Group. Victoria Hale passed along your information regarding the Riverside Community Project. Would you have time to discuss it this week?" Liam nearly dropped the phone. Yes, I have time." "Excellent. Does Friday at 2 work for you?" "Friday's perfect." "Great. I'll send over a calendar invite with our office address. Please bring your full proposal and any relevant financial projections. We'll want to see everything." The call ended and Liam sat there staring at his computer screen without seeing it. Victoria had made that call less than 5 hours ago. She'd sat across from him in a coffee shop, listened to him talk about his failing business, and immediately started making moves to help him. He didn't know what to do with that. His phone rang again. This time it was Maya, and he let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again immediately because Maya was nothing if not persistent. "What?" Liam said. "I just got off the phone with Victoria." "Why were you talking to Victoria?" "Because we're friends, and she called to thank me for setting you two up. She likes you, Liam, like, really likes you. We've had 2 dates, and she's already making business calls on your behalf. That's not nothing." Liam closed his laptop, suddenly exhausted. "I don't want her to feel like she has to help me. She doesn't feel like she has to. She wants to. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes. And you know what else? You're allowed to let someone help you. You're allowed to accept support instead of white-knuckling everything alone." "I have the twins." "The twins are 9, Liam. I'm talking about adult support, partnership. Someone in your corner who isn't related to you by blood." Maya's voice softened. "You've been doing this alone for so long. Maybe it's okay to let someone in." After he hung up, Liam pulled up the calendar invite from Meridian Capital. Friday at 2 p.m. He had 3 days to update his proposal, shore up his projections, and try not to spiral about the fact that this opportunity had materialized because of Victoria. He spent the rest of the week buried in work. The twins noticed he was distracted, and Sophie called him out on it at dinner Wednesday night. "You're being weird," she announced, stabbing at her broccoli like it had personally offended her. "I'm not being weird." "You are. You keep smiling at your phone." "I don't smile at my phone." "You did it 3 times during homework," Emma added. "Are you texting your girlfriend?" "I don't have a girlfriend." "But you want one," Sophie said with the confidence of someone who'd already made up her mind. "Is it the lady from Monday?" Liam set down his fork. "How do you know about Monday?" "Aunt Maya told us you had a date." "Aunt Maya has a big mouth. She said the lady was really pretty and really nice and that you should marry her." "Maya said that?" "Not exactly," Emma admitted, "but that's what she meant." "I'm not marrying anyone. We've had coffee. That's it." "But you're seeing her again," Sophie pressed. "Maybe." "That means yes," Emma translated. They spent the rest of dinner interrogating him with the kind of focus usually reserved for cross-examination lawyers. What was her name? What did she do? Did she like kids? Was she going to be their new mom? Liam deflected as best he could, but by the time he got them into bed, he felt like he'd survived a friendly inquisition. His phone buzzed as he was cleaning up the kitchen. "Victoria, how are your girls?" Liam, "Relentless. They've decided you're going to be their stepmother." Victoria, "That's a lot of pressure for someone who's only bought you coffee once." Liam, "You should hear their wedding plans. Very elaborate." Victoria, "I'm almost afraid to ask." Liam, "Doves, chocolate fountain. Sophie wants it at the Space Needle for some reason." Victoria, "She has expensive taste." Liam, "She's 9. She has no concept of money." Victoria, "Lucky her." There was a pause, then another message came through. Victoria, "I'm looking forward to Saturday." Liam, "Me too." Victoria, "Fair warning, I'm not great at the whole relaxed dinner party thing. I might be awkward." Liam, "I've met you twice and you've been awkward both times. I'm prepared." Victoria, "Wow, honesty." Liam, "You said you valued it." Victoria, "I do. Doesn't mean it doesn't sting a little." Friday afternoon, Liam walked into Meridian Capital's downtown office with his proposal printed and bound, his best shirt on, and absolutely no idea what to expect. Jennifer Park turned out to be sharp and direct, the kind of person who could smell bullshit from 3 floors away. She spent 2 hours picking apart his proposal, asking questions he hadn't prepared for, pushing on assumptions he'd thought were solid. But she didn't say no. "I'll need to discuss this with my partners," Jennifer said as they wrapped up. "But I like the model. It's the kind of impact investment we're interested in. The numbers need work. Your projections are conservative, which I appreciate, but you're also underselling the potential return on community stability. I can revise those. Do that. And send me case studies from similar projects, even if they're not yours. I need comparable data." She walked him to the elevator, then paused. "Victoria spoke highly of you. She doesn't do that often. We only recently met." "I know. That's what makes it interesting." Jennifer smiled. "She's a good judge of character. If she thinks this is worth pursuing, I'm inclined to agree." Liam left the building in a daze. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't the automatic no he'd been getting for months. It was possibility, which was more than he'd had in a long time. He called Maya from the car. "How did it go?" "I don't know. Good. Maybe?" "She didn't reject me outright." "That's great. She wants revisions, more data, case studies." "So give them to her. You can do that." "Yeah." Liam merged onto the highway, phone on speaker. "Maya, what am I doing?" "You're letting someone help you. You're accepting an opportunity. You're not self-sabotaging for once in your life." "I barely know Victoria." "So get to know her. You're having dinner tomorrow, right? At her place." "Perfect. Bring wine. Be charming. Let yourself enjoy something." "What if this doesn't work? The business thing, I mean." "Then it doesn't work and you figure out what's next. But you have to actually try, Liam. You can't just give up before you start." Saturday evening came faster than he expected. Liam dropped the twins at Maya's, endured another round of interrogation about his girlfriend, and drove to the address Victoria had sent him. It turned out to be a building in one of Seattle's most expensive neighborhoods, the kind of place with a doorman and actual marble in the lobby. The doorman called up to verify he was expected, then directed him to the penthouse. Of course it was a penthouse. The elevator opened directly into Victoria's apartment, and Liam stepped out into a space that looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, art that was probably worth more than his car. Everything was perfect and carefully curated and absolutely nothing like any place he'd ever lived. Victoria appeared from what he assumed was the kitchen, wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater that made her look younger somehow, more approachable. "You found it okay?" she asked. "Your doorman is very thorough." "Robert takes his job seriously." She took the wine he'd brought, a mid-range bottle he'd agonized over at the store, and smiled. "Thank you for this. Come in, please. Make yourself comfortable." Comfortable felt impossible in a space this pristine, but Liam followed her into the main living area. The view was stunning, the city spread out below them in a carpet of lights. "This is incredible," he said, because it was. "It's too big for one person, but I bought it when I took over the company. A statement purchase, I guess." Victoria set the wine on the counter. "Dinner's almost ready. I hope you like salmon." "Salmon's great. You're easy to please." "I have low standards." "I doubt that." She moved around the kitchen with the kind of efficiency that suggested she didn't cook often, but knew her way around when she tried. Liam offered to help and she let him set the table, which felt absurdly domestic for a second date. They ate at her dining table, which could have seated 12 but held just the two of them, and talked about nothing important. Movies they'd seen, places they wanted to travel, the specific absurdity of Seattle traffic. "Can I ask you something?" Liam said over dessert. "You're full of questions tonight." "You invited me into your home. I'm taking advantage." Victoria smiled. "Fair. Ask away." "Why are you alone?" "I don't mean that in a judgmental way. You're successful, smart, you have your life together. Why isn't there someone?" She was quiet for a long moment, turning her wine glass in slow circles. "There was someone. A few years ago. It ended badly." "How badly?" "The kind of bad where you spend a year rebuilding yourself and learning to trust your own judgment again." She met his eyes. "He wasn't who I thought he was. And by the time I figured that out, I'd already given him access to parts of my life I should have protected. It made me careful. Maybe too careful. I'm sorry." "It's fine. Ancient history." But her voice said it wasn't. Not really. "What about you? The twins' mom. Left when they were 2. met someone else, decided single motherhood wasn't for her. Liam heard the bitterness creep back in and tried to soften it. It was hard, really hard, but we got through it. Just the three of you. Just the three of us. That must have been lonely. Yeah, Liam said quietly. It was. They moved to the couch after dinner, sitting at opposite ends with the city stretched out below them. The conversation drifted, comfortable silences mixing with easy talk, and Liam felt himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in months, maybe years. Thank you, he said eventually, for the introduction to Jennifer Park. I met with her yesterday. I heard. She called me after. What did she say? That your proposal needs work, but the core concept is solid, and that you were refreshingly honest about the challenges. Victoria turned to face him slightly. She's interested, Liam, really interested. Because of you. Because of the project. I just opened the door. Still, thank you. You're welcome. She hesitated, then added, I wasn't sure if I should make the call. I didn't want you to think I was overstepping. You weren't. No? No, you were helping. There's a difference. Victoria smiled, and there was relief in it. Good. They sat there as the city lights flickered below them, and Liam thought about how strange this was. Sitting in a penthouse with a woman who existed in a completely different world, feeling more comfortable than he had in years. Like maybe, possibly, this could be something real. His phone buzzed. A text from Maya. How's it going? Are you still alive? He typed back, still alive, stop checking on me. Never. Have fun. Don't overthink. Victoria glanced at his phone. Everything okay? Just Maya being Maya. She cares about you. She's a pain in my ass. Both things can be true. Liam pocketed his phone and looked at Victoria. Really looked at her. Can I ask you one more question? You're definitely taking advantage now. What do you want from this? From us, I mean. The directness clearly surprised her. She pulled her legs up onto the couch, wrapping her arms around her knees in a gesture that made her seem smaller, younger. Honestly, Victoria said, I don't know. I haven't done this in so long. I'm not sure I remember how. But I like you, Liam. I like talking to you. I like that you don't want anything from me except my company. That's rare. I like you too. Even though I live in an absurdly large penthouse and have doormen who interrogate my guests? Even though. She smiled, and it was the most genuine expression he'd seen from her yet. Can we just see where this goes? No expectations, no timeline, just see? Yeah, Liam said. We can do that. They talked until almost midnight, until Liam realized he needed to pick up the twins from Maya's, and Victoria walked him to the elevator. There was another awkward moment where neither of them knew quite how to say goodbye, and then Victoria leaned in and kissed his cheek, quick and soft and over before he could react. Good night, Liam. Good night. The elevator doors closed, and Liam stood there like an idiot, hand pressed to where she'd kissed him, grinning at his own reflection in the polished metal. His phone rang immediately. Maya. I can hear you smiling through the phone, she said. I'm not smiling. You absolutely are. How was it? Good. Really good. Are you seeing her again? I think so, yeah. Look at you, dating like a normal person. Don't get used to it. But he was smiling as he drove to pick up the twins, and he was still smiling when Sophie asked him if he'd kissed his girlfriend, and he couldn't quite stop even when Emma announced they'd already designed the Save the Date cards. Maybe Maya was right. Maybe it was okay to let someone in. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the good thing he'd been too scared to hope for. 3 weeks later, Liam brought Victoria home to meet the twins. He'd put it off as long as he reasonably could, making excuses about schedules and timing and the girls being too busy with school. But the truth was, he'd been terrified. Not of Victoria meeting them. She'd already proven herself capable of handling difficult situations with grace. No, he was terrified of what it would mean when his two worlds collided, when the careful compartmentalization he'd been maintaining finally crumbled. Because things with Victoria had gotten serious faster than he'd expected. They'd fallen into a pattern over those 3 weeks. Coffee twice a week before her meetings, dinner when their schedules aligned, long phone calls late at night after the twins were asleep. She'd revised his proposal with him, offering insights from her years running her own company, never overstepping but always helpful. The meeting with Meridian Capital had gone well enough that they'd asked for a second round of discussions, this time with their full investment committee. It felt like everything was finally moving in the right direction, which was exactly when Liam's anxiety decided to kick into overdrive. "You're overthinking this," Maya had said when he'd called her in a panic the night before. "They're going to love her." "What if they don't?" "Then they don't, and you deal with it. But they will. She's great with people." "She runs a billion-dollar company, Maya. She's not used to 9-year-olds interrogating her about her favorite Taylor Swift song. Does she have a favorite Taylor Swift song?" "I don't know. I didn't ask." "Well, you should. Sophie will definitely ask." Now it was Saturday afternoon, and Victoria was due to arrive in 20 minutes, and Liam was standing in his kitchen having a mild crisis while the twins tore through their rooms trying to find acceptable outfits. "Dad," Emma yelled from upstairs, "Sophie says I can't wear my dinosaur shirt." "You can wear whatever you want." "It has a stain on it," Sophie's voice equally loud. "Then pick a different shirt." Liam ran a hand through his hair and stared at the chicken he'd been attempting to marinate for the past 10 minutes. He'd Googled easy, impressive dinner recipes at 2 in the morning and settled on something that had looked doable in the photos, but now seemed impossibly complicated. Why had he thought he could pull off lemon herb chicken with roasted vegetables when his usual dinner rotation consisted of pasta, tacos, and whatever the twins would actually eat? His phone buzzed. "Victoria. On my way. Need me to bring anything?" Liam. "Just yourself. We're good." Victoria. "You're freaking out, aren't you?" Liam. "No." Victoria. "Liar." Victoria. "It's going to be fine. I promise not to judge your cooking." Liam. "I'm an excellent cook." Victoria. "I've seen you burn toast." Liam. "That was one time." She'd stayed over the weekend before, just for coffee, nothing else, and he'd attempted to make breakfast. The toast incident had been embarrassing, but she'd laughed instead of judging him, and they'd ended up eating cereal like college students while the twins were still at Maya's. That morning felt like a lifetime ago now. The doorbell rang, and both twins came thundering down the stairs like a stampede. Liam barely beat them to the door, pulling it open to find Victoria standing on his porch, looking nervous in a way he'd never seen her look before. She'd dressed down, jeans, a simple green sweater, minimal jewelry. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wasn't wearing the careful armor he'd gotten used to seeing. She looked younger, approachable, terrified. "Hi," she said. "Hi." They stared at each other for a second, and then Emma pushed past Liam's legs to get a better look. "Are you Victoria?" Emma demanded. "I am. You must be Emma." "How did you know?" "Your dad talks about you all the time. He said you want to adopt every animal you see." Emma's face lit up. "Did he tell you about the raccoon?" "Oh no," Liam muttered. "There was a raccoon in our yard last week, and Emma tried to catch it," Sophie explained, appearing at her sister's shoulder. "She named it Gerald." "Before or after it tried to bite her?" Victoria asked, and Liam loved her a little bit for not immediately launching into a safety lecture. "Before." Gerald was scared. "Gerald was rabid," Sophie corrected. "Dad had to call animal control." Victoria stepped inside and Liam closed the door behind her, acutely aware of how small his house probably seemed compared to her penthouse. The living room was cluttered with the twins' art projects and soccer gear. The couch had a permanent dent from years of use, and there was a water stain on the ceiling he kept meaning to fix but never got around to. If Victoria noticed any of it, she didn't show it. "Something smells good," she said. "Dad's making chicken," Sophie announced. "He's been freaking out about it all day." "I have not been freaking out." "You checked the recipe 6 times. That's called being thorough." Victoria smiled and caught his eye, and there was understanding there, maybe even solidarity. She was nervous too, he realized. Maybe not about the dinner itself, but about what it meant that she was here, in his home, meeting the most important people in his life. "Can I help with anything?" Victoria asked. "You can sit down and relax," Liam said. "The girls will keep you company." "We have questions," Emma informed her seriously. "I'm ready." Liam retreated to the kitchen and tried not to eavesdrop, but the house was small and the twins were not quiet. "Do you like Dad?" Sophie asked. No preamble, just straight to the point. "I do," Victoria said. "Very much." "Are you his girlfriend?" That's up to your dad to decide, but I'd like to be. Do you want to marry him? Sophie, Liam called from the kitchen. Give her a chance to sit down before you plan the wedding. We're just asking, Emma protested. He heard Victoria laugh, and some of the tension in his shoulders eased. The twins had a way of disarming people with their complete lack of filter, and maybe that was exactly what this situation needed. By the time dinner was ready, the girls had thoroughly interrogated Victoria about everything from her favorite color to whether she believed in ghosts. She'd handled it with patience and humor, never talking down to them, treating their questions with the same seriousness she probably brought to board meetings. They ate at Liam's small dining table, the four of them squeezed in together, and it felt surreal. Victoria asking Emma about her science project, Sophie explaining her complicated theory about why soccer was better than every other sport, Liam watching it all unfold and trying not to think too hard about how right it felt. This chicken is really good, Victoria said. It's okay, Liam said. Dad's being modest, Sophie informed her. He's actually a good cook when he's not stressed. I'm not stressed. You checked on the chicken 8 times. Sophie, if you don't stop narrating my cooking process, you're on dish duty for a week. After dinner, the twins dragged Victoria upstairs to show her their rooms. Liam cleaned up the kitchen and tried not to think about what they were telling her up there. Probably embarrassing stories. Definitely embarrassing stories. His phone rang. Unknown number, which these days usually meant bad news or telemarketers. This is Liam. Mr. Carter, this is David Winters from North Point Investments. Liam nearly dropped the plate he was holding. North Point, the company that had rejected him weeks ago. Hi. What can I do for you? I wanted to reach out personally to apologize. There was an error in our initial assessment of your proposal. After reviewing it again with fresh eyes, we believe we made a mistake. I'm sorry, what? We'd like to reconsider your application. Would you be open to another meeting? Liam leaned against the counter, trying to process this. I'm already in discussions with Meridian Capital. I understand, but I wanted you to know that we're interested, should those discussions not work out. We were too quick to dismiss your project, and I wanted to correct that error. I appreciate that. Can I think about it? Of course. My direct line is in the email I'm sending over. Please don't hesitate to reach out. The call ended and Liam stood there, staring at his phone like it had grown a second screen. 2 investment firms interested in his project. 2. After months of rejections, suddenly he had options. It didn't feel real. Everything okay? Victoria appeared in the kitchen doorway. That was North Point. They want to reconsider. Her eyebrows rose. The company that rejected you? Apparently, they made a mistake. Liam set his phone on the counter. This is weird, right? This is definitely weird. It's unusual, Victoria agreed, but not unheard of. Sometimes investors circle back when they realize they missed something good. Yeah, but the timing is coincidental. Don't read into it. She moved closer, lowering her voice. Your girls are wonderful, by the way. Emma wants to show me her rock collection, and Sophie has opinions about literally everything. I'm sorry about the interrogation. Don't be. I liked it. They're honest. Victoria glanced toward the stairs, then back at him. They asked if you were happy. With me, I mean. What did you say? I said they should ask you. She held his gaze. Are you? Yeah, Liam said quietly. I am. Something shifted in her expression, a softness he'd only seen glimpses of before. Good. Me too. They stood there in his small kitchen, the sounds of the twins laughing upstairs filtering down. And Liam thought about how impossible this would have seemed a month ago. Victoria Hale in his house, charming his daughters, making him believe that maybe good things could actually happen. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. Meridian Capital moved forward with a preliminary term sheet pending final approval from their investment committee. Liam spent his days revising projections and gathering documentation, his nights talking to Victoria about strategy and vision and everything in between. She never pushed, never tried to take over, but her insights were invaluable, and he found himself running ideas past her constantly. You're using her, Maya said one afternoon when she'd stopped by the office to bring him coffee. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're leaning on her a lot. She offered to help. I know. Just make sure you're also giving her something back. Like what? I don't know. Support? Partnership? not just business advice in exchange for dates. The comment stuck with him longer than he wanted to admit. Was he using Victoria? He didn't think so, but Maya had a point. Most of their recent conversations had been about his business, his problems, his stress. When was the last time he'd asked about her life beyond the surface level? He called her that night after the twins were asleep. "Hey," Victoria answered. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, fine. I just wanted to talk. If you have time." "I always have time for you." He heard the smile in her voice. "What's up?" "Actually, I wanted to ask about you. How are you? Like, really?" "I'm fine." "Victoria," she sighed. "I'm tired. Work has been complicated lately. Some board members are pushing back on a development project I've been championing, and the politics of it are exhausting." "Tell me about it." So she did. For the next hour, Victoria talked and Liam listened, really listened, to her frustrations about running a company where everyone wanted something from her, where every decision was scrutinized and second-guessed, where the loneliness of her position meant she couldn't show weakness or doubt. "Sometimes I wonder what I'm doing it all for," she admitted. "I work 80 hours a week managing other people's money, building things that don't mean anything beyond profit margins. And for what? A bigger apartment I'm never in? More zeros in an account I don't have time to spend?" "You could walk away," Liam said. "And do what?" "I don't know. Something that matters to you." "Nothing matters to me except work. That's the problem." "I don't believe that." "Why not?" "Because you wouldn't have helped me if work was all you cared about. You wouldn't be spending your weekends with a single dad and his chaotic kids if profit margins were your only priority." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe you're right." "I'm definitely right. I'm right about lots of things." That got a laugh. "Name one other thing you're right about." "The twins love you. That's not nothing. They're easy to love." "So are you." The words were out before Liam could stop them, and he immediately wanted to take them back. Too much, too soon, too honest. But Victoria didn't hang up or deflect or change the subject. "Thank you," she said softly. "I needed to hear that tonight." They talked until after midnight, and when Liam finally hung up, he felt like maybe Maya was wrong. Maybe this wasn't one-sided. Maybe they were both getting something real out of this. The Meridian Capital meeting was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon. Liam showed up 30 minutes early, his revised proposal printed and bound, wearing the same shirt he'd worn to the first meeting like it was some kind of good luck charm. Jennifer Park greeted him in the conference room along with 3 other partners. They spent 2 hours going through every aspect of his proposal: the financials, the community impact assessments, the timeline, the risk mitigation strategies. They pushed hard on the profit projections, questioning whether the returns justified the investment. Liam defended his work as best he could, drawing on Victoria's coaching and his own conviction that this project mattered beyond the numbers. When they finally wrapped up, he had no idea which way they were leaning. "We'll discuss internally and get back to you by next week," Jennifer said. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Carter." He left the building feeling wrung out and uncertain. A week felt like an eternity. His phone rang as he was unlocking his car. "Victoria." "How did it go?" "I don't know. They're deciding next week." "That's actually good news. If they were going to reject you outright, they would have said so. Or they're just being polite." Jennifer Park is not polite. She's direct. If she says next week, she means they're genuinely considering it. Liam leaned against his car, closing his eyes. "I can't do this for another week. The waiting is killing me." "Then don't wait alone. Come over tonight. I'll make dinner. We can watch something mindless. You can stop thinking about it for a few hours." "The twins are with Maya tonight, I know. She texted me. She's very invested in us spending time together." "Maya needs a hobby." "Maya needs you to let yourself be happy. Come over, Liam." So he did. Victoria's penthouse felt different that night, less like a showpiece and more like a home. She'd ordered Thai food instead of cooking. "I'm not subjecting you to my actual cooking," she'd said. And they ate sprawled on her massive couch, watching a movie neither of them paid attention to. "Can I ask you something?" Liam said during a particularly boring action sequence. "Always." "What happened with your ex, the one you mentioned?" Victoria's expression shuddered slightly, but she didn't deflect. "His name was Marcus. We dated for 2 years. I thought he loved me for me, but it turned out he loved my money and my connections more." She picked at the label on her water bottle. He was using me to advance his own business interests. By the time I figured it out, he'd made deals using my name without my knowledge, leveraged relationships I'd introduced him to, and basically treated me like a stepping stone. That's awful. It was humiliating. I pride myself on reading people, on being smart about business, and I completely missed what he was doing until my CFO flagged some irregular activity tied to my personal accounts. She looked at him. It made me very careful about who I let close, about trusting anyone's motives. Is that why you were so guarded when we met? Partly. Also because I'd convinced myself I was better off alone. And now? Now I'm terrified I'm making another mistake. She said it like a confession. Not about you specifically, just about trusting my judgment again. Every time I start to feel comfortable, there's this voice asking what I'm missing, what angle I'm not seeing. Liam set down his food and turned to face her fully. I'm not using you, Victoria. I know it probably looks that way with the business stuff and the introductions, but that's not why I'm here. I know that. Logically, I know that. It's just hard to turn off the paranoia. Then don't. Keep your guard up if you need to. I'm not going anywhere. She smiled, sad and grateful at the same time. You say that now. I mean it. They finished the movie in comfortable silence, Victoria's head eventually coming to rest on his shoulder. It felt easy and right in a way that made Liam's chest ache with how much he wanted this to work. Around 11, his phone buzzed with a text from Maya sending photos of the twins asleep on her couch, covered in blankets and still wearing their shoes. They're beautiful, Victoria said, looking over his shoulder at the photos. They're chaos incarnate. Same thing. Liam pocketed his phone and looked at her, at this woman who'd somehow become essential to his life in the span of a month. Thank you. For what? For this. For letting me exist outside my own head for a while. You're welcome. She hesitated, then added, Liam, whatever happens with Meridian Capital, you know that doesn't change this, right? Us, I mean. I know. Do you? Because I need you to really understand that. Your business succeeding or failing has nothing to do with how I feel about you. The words should have been reassuring, but something in them made Liam's stomach twist, because his business failing absolutely would change things, whether Victoria wanted it to or not. It would change him, change what he could offer, change the already massive gap between their lives. But he didn't say any of that. I understand, he said instead. He left shortly after midnight, driving home through empty streets, and tried not to think about the fact that he'd just lied to her. The following Tuesday, Liam's world started to crack. It started with an email from one of his contractors. A project they'd been working on together, one of the few active jobs keeping his company afloat, was being put on hold indefinitely due to permit issues. Issues that shouldn't have existed, that didn't make sense given the documentation he'd submitted months ago. Then his accountant called. There was a problem with his business accounts, some kind of flag from the bank about irregular activity. Nothing serious yet, but enough to freeze access until it could be investigated. By Wednesday afternoon, 3 clients had called to cancel upcoming projects. Not reschedule, cancel outright. The reasons varied. Budget cuts, timeline changes, shifting priorities. But the timing was impossible to ignore. Something was wrong. Liam spent Thursday making calls, trying to figure out what was happening. The permit office gave him bureaucratic runaround. The bank couldn't provide details beyond routine investigation. The clients who'd canceled wouldn't return his follow-up calls. Friday morning, Jennifer Park's assistant called to cancel his scheduled follow-up meeting. Miss Park will be in touch when she has more information, the assistant said, professionally vague. Is there a problem with my proposal? Liam asked. I'm not at liberty to discuss the details. Ms. Park will reach out directly. The call ended and Liam sat at his desk, staring at his computer screen, feeling the walls close in. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Are you okay? Jennifer's assistant just told me about the meeting cancellation. I don't know what's happening. Want to talk? He did, and he didn't. Talking meant admitting how scared he was, meant voicing the possibility that everything was falling apart again. But he also couldn't carry this alone anymore. Can you come over tonight, after the twins are asleep? I'll be there. She showed up at 9:30 with wine and Chinese takeout, an expression that said she was prepared for bad news. They sat at his kitchen table, the same one where they'd had dinner with the twins 3 weeks ago, and Liam laid it all out. The canceled projects, the permit issues, the frozen accounts, the postponed meeting with Meridian. It's all happening at once, he said. That can't be coincidence. Have you upset anyone recently? A competitor, maybe, or a former business partner? No, I don't have competitors. My operation is too small. And I don't have former partners, it's just me. Victoria was quiet, turning her wine glass in those slow circles he'd come to recognize as her thinking motion. This feels targeted. By who? I'm nobody. I don't have enemies. You have something someone wants, or you're a threat to something someone's protecting. That doesn't make sense. Doesn't it? She looked at him directly. You're working on a community development project in a neighborhood that's probably been targeted for acquisition by larger developers. Projects like yours complicate those acquisitions, drive up costs, create community resistance. You think someone's sabotaging me? I think it's possible. Liam pushed his food around his plate, his appetite gone. Even if that's true, what am I supposed to do about it? I don't have resources to fight that kind of thing. I can barely keep my business running without active sabotage. You have me. Victoria, I'm serious. Let me help. I can make calls, put pressure on the right people, figure out who's behind this. Why would you do that? The question clearly surprised her. Because you matter to me. Because this project matters. Because I have resources you don't, and I want to use them. I can't ask you to fight my battles. You're not asking. I'm offering. They stared at each other across the table, and Liam felt something shift. Fear, maybe, or the beginning of understanding that accepting help meant giving up control, meant admitting he couldn't do this alone. Okay, he said finally. Okay. Help me figure this out. Victoria made calls the next day. By Monday, she had answers. There's a development group called Pinnacle Holdings trying to acquire most of the Riverside neighborhood, she told him over coffee Tuesday morning. Your project is right in the middle of their planned footprint. They've been quietly buying up properties for months, and your community development plan threatens their timeline. How did you find this out? I know people who know people. The real estate development world is smaller than you think. So what do I do? You fight back. Document everything. Make noise. Get community support. Make it harder for them to push you out quietly. With what time? What money? Liam. She reached across the table and took his hand. You don't have to do this alone. Let me help. Actually, let me help, not just accept it grudgingly. He wanted to argue, to insist he could handle it himself. But the truth was he was drowning and had been for months, and Victoria was offering him a lifeline. Okay, he said. Show me what to do. They spent the next week building a strategy. Victoria connected him with lawyers who could address the permit issues, helped him file complaints about the account freeze, used her own connections to apply pressure to Pinnacle Holdings. Liam focused on community outreach, documenting the support his project had, building a case for why it mattered. It was exhausting and consuming and brought them closer than any number of dates could have. But it also created distance he couldn't quite name. Victoria was helping him, yes, but she was also taking over, making decisions with the confidence of someone used to controlling outcomes. She was kind about it, always asking his opinion, but there was an implicit understanding that she knew better, had more experience, could fix what he couldn't. And maybe she could. But it made Liam feel small in a way he couldn't articulate. The twins noticed he was distracted. Sophie called him out during dinner Wednesday night. Are you okay, Dad? I'm fine, sweetheart. You're not eating. Liam looked down at his plate, surprised to find she was right. Just thinking about work stuff. Is it bad? It's complicated. Emma, quieter than her sister but just as perceptive, said, Is Victoria helping you? She is. Is that why you've been on the phone with her every night? Part of it, yeah, Sophie frowned. Do you still like her? Or is she just helping with work now? The question hit harder than it should have. I still like her very much. Why? You seem sad when you talk to her lately. Liam had no answer for that. Thursday afternoon, Jennifer Park finally called. I apologize for the delay, she said without preamble. We've been dealing with some external pressure regarding your project. What kind of pressure? The kind that comes from developers with deep pockets and political connections. Pinnacle Holdings reached out to several of our board members expressing concerns about your viability as a partner. And we don't bow to external pressure, but we do have to take it seriously. I wanted to verify their claims before moving forward. Liam's stomach dropped. What claims? That your business is unstable? That you have accounting irregularities? That you lack the experience to execute a project of this scale? Jennifer's voice softened slightly. For what it's worth, we found no evidence to support any of it. But it did slow our process down. So where does that leave us? It leaves us moving forward if you're still interested. The investment committee approved your proposal. Pending final due diligence and contract negotiations, Meridian Capital would like to fund your project. The words didn't register at first. Liam had to ask her to repeat them, just to be sure. We're approving the funding, Jennifer said. Congratulations, Mr. Carter. You're getting your project. After he hung up, Liam sat at his desk in stunned silence. He'd done it. After months of rejections and setbacks and nearly giving up, he'd actually done it. His first instinct was to call Victoria. She answered on the second ring. Hey, is everything okay? Meridian approved the funding. Silence. Then, Liam, that's incredible. I'm so happy for you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You just did it faster with help. He should have been elated, should have been celebrating, but instead he felt hollow in a way he couldn't explain. Like the victory wasn't quite his because he hadn't earned it alone. Can I see you tonight? He asked. Of course. Your place or mine? Yours if that's okay. I'll get Maya to watch the twins. Something in his tone must have worried her because she said, Liam, are you sure you're okay? Yeah, I just need to see you. He showed up at her penthouse at 8, and the doorman Robert greeted him by name now, which should have felt like progress, but instead felt like evidence of how much his life had changed in the past 6 weeks. Victoria met him at the elevator, already in comfortable clothes, her hair down. She took one look at his face and said, What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, the opposite actually, everything's working out. That's good, isn't it? Yeah, it's great. He followed her into the living room, accepting the wine she poured for him, but not drinking it. I need to ask you something. Okay? When you made those calls about Pinnacle Holdings, did you reach out to anyone at Meridian? Victoria's expression shifted, just slightly. I may have mentioned to Jennifer that the delay seemed unusual. What exactly did you say? Just that I knew you well enough to vouch for your character and your work, that if someone was spreading rumors, they weren't based in fact. So you intervened. I clarified. There's a difference. Is there? Liam set down his wine glass. Victoria, I need to know. Did I get this funding because my project is good or because you have influence? Your project is excellent. That's why you got funded. But your influence didn't hurt. She didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. I was trying to help, Victoria said quietly. Pinnacle was playing dirty, spreading lies. All I did was counter their narrative with the truth. By using your name and your connections. Yes, because I have them and you don't, and someone needed to level the playing field. That's not leveling the playing field, Victoria. That's you fighting my battles for me. So what? You'd rather I'd done nothing? Let them destroy your reputation and tank your funding? I'd rather have earned this on my own merit instead of because my girlfriend has more power than my opponents. The word girlfriend hung between them, the first time either of them had used it out loud. Victoria flinched like he'd hit her. Is that what this is about? She asked. You're upset because I helped you? I'm upset because I don't know if I won or if you won for me. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's how I feel. They stared at each other across her perfect living room, the city lights glittering behind her, and Liam felt the distance between them yawn wider. I thought you wanted my help, Victoria said, and there was hurt in her voice now, hurt and confusion. You asked me to help you figure out what was happening. I did that, and now you're angry about it? I'm not angry. I'm just... He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be with someone who can fix all my problems with a phone call. It makes me feel useless. You're not useless. I feel useless. There's a difference. Victoria crossed her arms, and he could see her retreating behind that careful control he'd worked so hard to get past. So what are you saying? You want me to stop helping you? Pretend I don't have resources that could make your life easier? I don't know what I want. I just know that this doesn't feel right. What doesn't feel right? Me helping you or you needing help? The question cut deeper than she probably meant it to. Because she was right, wasn't she? This wasn't really about her. It was about him and his pride and his inability to accept that he couldn't do everything alone. I should go, Liam said. Liam, I need to think. I need space to figure out what I'm doing. We can talk about this, work through it. I don't think I can. Not right now. He walked to the elevator and she didn't stop him, and when the doors closed between them, Liam saw her face, hurt and confused and trying not to show it. The drive home was a blur. He texted Maya that he was picking up the twins, and she responded with a string of questions he ignored. When he got to her place, she met him at the door with her arms crossed. What did you do? Why do you assume I did something? Because you look like you just kicked your own dog. What happened? I ended things with Victoria. You what? I didn't end things. I need space. Liam, are you out of your mind? She's perfect for you. She's too perfect, Maya. She fixes everything. I can't compete with that. You're not supposed to compete with her. You're supposed to be partners. How can we be partners when she's solving all my problems? Maya grabbed his shoulders and looked him dead in the eyes. Listen to me very carefully. You're about to sabotage the best thing that's happened to you in years because you're too proud to accept help. Do not do this. I'm not sabotaging anything. Yes, you are, and you're going to regret it. He picked up the twins, both of them sleepy and complaining about the late hour, and drove them home. Got them into bed, cleaned up the kitchen, and sat in his living room in the dark, staring at his phone. No messages from Victoria. He'd expected her to text, to call, to push back against his leaving. But she hadn't, and the silence felt like confirmation that maybe he'd been right. Maybe the gap between them was too wide to bridge. His phone buzzed around midnight. Finally, a message from Victoria. I understand you need space. Take all the time you need. But for what it's worth, I never wanted you to feel small. I just wanted to help because I care about you. If that's not something you can accept, then maybe you're right and this won't work. I hope you figure out what you want, Liam. You deserve to be happy, even if that's not with me. He read the message 5 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. She wasn't fighting for him. She was letting him go. And maybe that was for the best. Liam closed his eyes and tried to convince himself he'd made the right choice. He failed. The week that followed was the longest of Liam's life. He threw himself into work, into the contract negotiations with Meridian Capital, into anything that would keep his mind occupied. The twins noticed something was wrong but didn't push, though Sophie kept asking when Victoria was coming over again, and Emma had started drawing pictures of the 4 of them together that she left on his desk like passive-aggressive reminders of what he'd walked away from. Maya called him every day. He ignored most of the calls. By Wednesday, she showed up at his office unannounced. You look terrible, she said, dropping into the chair across from his desk. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Have you talked to her? No. Have you texted her? No. Liam. She told me to take all the time I need. I'm taking it. Maya leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Do you know what you're doing? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're destroying the best relationship you've had in years because you're too stubborn to admit you were wrong. I wasn't wrong. She was taking over my life. She was helping you. There's a difference. Not to me. Then you're an idiot. Liam looked up from his laptop, irritation flaring. Did you come here just to insult me? I came here to talk sense into you before you lose her completely. Maya's expression softened. I know you're scared. I know accepting help makes you feel weak, but pushing away someone who cares about you isn't strength, Liam. It's just fear. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Because all I see is my brother sabotaging his own happiness. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that this was about principle, about maintaining his independence. But the words stuck in his throat because some part of him knew she was right. He was scared. Scared of needing Victoria. Scared of what it meant that she could fix his problems when he couldn't. Scared of the massive gap between their worlds that no amount of feeling could bridge. What if it doesn't work? Liam said quietly. What if I let her back in and she realizes I'm not worth the trouble? What if you don't and you spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been? Maya left after that, and Liam sat alone in his office staring at his phone. Victoria's last message was still there, unread multiple times over the past week. He'd memorized every word. His phone rang. Jennifer Park. Liam, we need to talk about the contract timeline. He forced himself to focus. What about it? We've hit a snag with Pinnacle Holdings. They're threatening legal action, claiming your project violates some zoning agreements they have in place. That's not possible. I've checked the zoning 6 different ways. I know, but they're making noise and it's slowing down our legal team's approval process. We need to address it before we can finalize the funding. How long will that take? Depends on how aggressive they want to be. Could be weeks, could be months. After the call ended, Liam put his head in his hands. Of course Pinnacle wasn't done. Of course there was another obstacle. The universe couldn't just let him have one win without making him fight for every inch of it. He knew what he should do. Call Victoria, ask for her help navigating this new challenge. She'd know people, have strategies, could probably shut down Pinnacle's threats with a few well-placed calls. But that was exactly the problem, wasn't it? She could fix it. She could fix everything. And he'd never know if he was capable of fixing it himself. Thursday morning brought another crisis. One of his remaining clients called to cancel their contract, citing concerns about his company's stability. The same vague language, the same careful distance. Pinnacle's influence, almost certainly. By Friday afternoon, Liam was sitting in his office going through his accounts and facing the reality he'd been avoiding. Even with the Meridian funding pending, he was running out of runway. 2 more months, maybe 3 if he cut everything to the bone. After that, he'd have to shut down. He could ask Victoria for a bridge loan. She'd probably give it to him without hesitation. The thought made him feel sick. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Carter, this is Robert from Miss Hale's building. I apologize for the unusual contact, but I wanted to reach out. Miss Hale has seemed very sad this past week. I don't know what happened between you two, but I thought you should know. She's a good person who deserves to be happy. I hope you'll consider that. Liam stared at the message, guilt twisting in his chest. Victoria's doorman was texting him about her emotional state. That's how bad things had gotten. He typed back, "Thank you for letting me know." That night, after the twins were asleep, Liam did something he hadn't done in months. He pulled out a bottle of whiskey and poured himself a drink, then sat at his kitchen table and forced himself to think about what he really wanted. The honest answer terrified him. He wanted Victoria, wanted her laugh and her dry humor and the way she looked at him like he mattered, wanted the life he'd glimpsed with her, the possibility of partnership and support and not being alone anymore. But he also wanted to be worthy of her. And right now, sitting in his small house with his failing business and his mountain of insecurities, he didn't feel worthy at all. Saturday morning, Sophie found him at the kitchen table, head pillowed on his arms, the whiskey bottle still out. "Dad?" Her voice was small, worried. Liam sat up quickly, wincing at the headache that immediately bloomed behind his eyes. "Hey, sweetheart, what are you doing up so early?" "It's not early. It's 9:30. She climbed into the chair across from him, her expression too serious for a 9-year-old. "Are you sad about Victoria?" "What makes you think I'm sad about Victoria?" "You've been weird all week, and Emma heard you on the phone with Aunt Maya. You were yelling." "I wasn't yelling. You were talking loud about how you messed everything up." Liam rubbed his face. "I didn't mess everything up." "Did you break up with her?" "It's complicated, Soph." "Do you love her?" The question stopped him cold. Did he love Victoria? They'd only known each other for 6 weeks. That wasn't enough time to love someone, was it? But then he thought about the way his chest ached when he saw something funny and couldn't immediately share it with her. The way he reached for his phone a dozen times a day to text her before remembering they weren't talking. The way everything felt muted and gray without her in it. "Yeah," Liam said quietly. "I think I do." "Then why aren't you with her?" "Because I'm scared." Of what? How did he explain this to a 9-year-old? How did he articulate the fear of not being enough, of becoming dependent on someone who could leave, of losing himself in trying to measure up to her world? "I'm scared that she's too good for me," he said finally, "that eventually she'll realize she made a mistake." Sophie frowned. "That's dumb." "Thanks, sweetheart. Very helpful." "No, I mean it. You're a good dad and you work really hard and you're nice to people. Why wouldn't she want to be with you?" "It's not that simple." "It is, though. Emma and I like her. She likes you. You like her. That's all that matters." If only it were that simple. But Sophie was looking at him with such conviction, such absolute certainty that the adult complications didn't matter, that Liam felt something shift. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was overcomplicating this because he was too afraid to just let himself be happy. What should I do? He asked. Tell her you're sorry and that you love her. Just like that? Just like that. It's what happens in all the movies. Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Are we talking about Victoria? Dad loves her, but he's being stupid about it, Sophie announced. Sophie, it's true. You need to fix it. I agree, Emma said, climbing into Liam's lap despite being almost too big for it. We miss her. You've met her twice. And we decided we like her, so fix it. Liam looked at his daughters, at their absolute faith that love was simple and fixable, and felt something crack open in his chest. When had he become so cynical? When had he started believing that good things couldn't happen to him? Okay, he said, I'll try. Today, Sophie insisted, I need to figure out what to say. No, you don't. You just say you're sorry, and you were being dumb, and you love her. That's it. It's really not that simple. Both twins looked at him with identical expressions of exasperation, and Liam realized he was being outvoted by two 9-year-olds. Fine. Today. But today turned into tomorrow, and tomorrow turned into Monday, because Liam kept chickening out. He'd pull up Victoria's number and stare at it, trying to find the right words, and then lose his nerve. How did you apologize for pushing someone away when they were only trying to help? How did you admit you'd been an idiot without sounding like you were only coming back because you needed something? Tuesday afternoon, everything came to a head. Liam was in a meeting with his lawyer reviewing Pinnacle's latest legal threat when his phone rang. Meridian Capital. He excused himself to take it. Liam, it's Jennifer. I have bad news. His stomach dropped. How bad? The investment committee is pulling out. Pinnacle's legal threats created too much uncertainty, and our board isn't comfortable with the risk level anymore. Wait, you can't just... We had a deal. We had a preliminary agreement pending due diligence. The due diligence raised red flags we can't ignore. I'm sorry, Liam. I really am. Your project is excellent, but the timing isn't right. The timing isn't right because Pinnacle is actively sabotaging me. I know, but my hands are tied. The board made the decision this morning. The call ended and Liam stood in the hallway outside the conference room, feeling the floor drop out from under him. No funding, no project, no business, probably, within a matter of weeks. He'd lost. His phone buzzed with an email. David Winters from North Point Investments, the one who'd called weeks ago wanting to reconsider. Mr. Carter, I heard about the situation with Meridian. Our offer still stands if you're interested in discussing it. Please call me at your earliest convenience. Liam stared at the email, and something about it felt wrong. The timing was too convenient, the language too careful. North Point had rejected him initially, then circled back right when Meridian got interested, and now they were conveniently available again the moment Meridian pulled out. He called Victoria before he could stop himself. She answered on the third ring, her voice professionally neutral. Hello? Victoria, it's me. Silence. Then, is everything okay? No. Everything's falling apart and I need your help. More silence. He could almost hear her deciding whether to engage or protect herself. What happened? She asked finally. So he told her. About Meridian pulling out, about Pinnacle's legal threats, about the email from North Point that felt like a setup. Can you look into North Point for me? He asked. See if there's any connection to Pinnacle? Why would there be? I don't know. It just feels wrong. Liam, please. I know I don't deserve to ask you for anything after how I acted, but I'm asking anyway. Please help me figure out what's going on. Victoria was quiet for so long he thought she might hang up. Then she said, I'll make some calls. Give me a few hours. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might not find anything. But she did. She called him back 3 hours later, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. North Point is a shell company owned by Pinnacle Holdings. They set you up. The initial rejection, the sudden reconsideration, the convenient timing, all of it was designed to make you desperate enough to accept their terms. What terms? I'm guessing they'll offer you funding with conditions that give them control over your project. Probably partnership agreements, board seats, veto power over decisions. They want your community relationships and your credibility, but they want to control the outcome. Liam leaned against his car in the parking lot, feeling sick. How did you figure that out? I have a very thorough research team, and I'm motivated. Also, I may have called in a favor from a friend at the SEC who's been watching Pinnacle for other irregularities. Victoria, don't. I'm not done being angry at you. I know, but I need to see you. Can I come over tonight? Why? Because I need to apologize in person, because I was an idiot, and I'm sorry, and I miss you. He heard her breath catch slightly. Liam, please, even if you don't want to see me again after, just give me a chance to say what I should have said weeks ago. Another long pause. Okay. Come over at 8. The rest of the day crawled by. Liam went through the motions of work, wrapped up the meeting with his lawyer, sent emails he barely registered writing. At 6, he picked up the twins from after-school care and took them home. Are you seeing Victoria tonight? Emma asked while he was making dinner. How did you know? You're wearing your nice shirt. You only wear that when you're seeing her. I have multiple nice shirts. You really don't, Sophie said. Are you going to tell her you love her? Maybe, if she doesn't kick me out first. She won't kick you out. She likes you. How are you so sure? Because she looked at you the same way you look at us, like you're important. The observation was so astute and unexpected that Liam had to turn away to hide how much it affected him. When had his daughters gotten so perceptive? He got them fed and settled with Maya, who gave him a long, knowing look but didn't say anything, and drove to Victoria's building. Robert the doorman greeted him with something that might have been approval. Good to see you again, Mr. Carter. Thanks, Robert. Sorry about the radio silence. We all make mistakes. The important thing is fixing them. The elevator ride up felt longer than usual. Liam's heart was hammering and his hands were sweating, and he felt like a teenager about to ask someone to prom. He checked his reflection in the mirrored elevator wall and immediately regretted it. He looked exhausted and nervous and completely out of his depth. The doors opened directly into Victoria's penthouse. She was waiting in the living room, standing by the windows with her arms crossed. She'd changed out of whatever she'd worn to work, now in dark jeans and a cream sweater that made her look softer, more approachable, but her expression was guarded. Hi, Liam said. Hi. They stood there 10 feet in a lifetime of unspoken things between them. Thank you for looking into North Point, Liam started. You're welcome. And thank you for seeing me tonight. I know I don't deserve... Liam, just say what you came to say. He took a breath. I'm sorry. For everything. For pushing you away, for making you feel like your help wasn't wanted, for being so caught up in my own pride that I couldn't see what you were actually doing. Victoria's expression didn't change. What was I actually doing? Caring about me, supporting me, being the partner I was too scared to admit I needed. And you figured this out now? I figured it out the night I left. I've just been too much of a coward to do anything about it. Why now? Because I lost the Meridian funding and I realized that the worst thing wasn't losing the project. It was losing you and being too stubborn to fight for you back. Victoria's arms tightened across her chest, her jaw working like she was trying to decide whether to trust him. You hurt me, Liam. You made me feel like everything I did to help you was wrong, like I was smothering you or taking over your life. I was just trying to show you that you didn't have to do everything alone. I know. And you were right. I do try to do everything alone. I've been doing it for so long I forgot how to let anyone in. He took a step closer. But I want to let you in. I want to be the kind of person who can accept help without feeling like a failure. I want to be with you, Victoria. If you'll still have me. She turned away, looking out at the city lights, and Liam's heart sank. He'd waited too long, hurt her too badly. She was going to tell him to leave, and he'd have no one to blame but himself. I don't want to be with someone who's going to run every time things get hard, Victoria said quietly. I don't want to be with someone who sees my success as a threat instead of something we can share. I don't see it as a threat anymore. I see it as part of who you are. And I love who you are. She turned back to face him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. You love me? Yeah, I do. I love your strength and your intelligence and the way you don't take any of my bullshit. I love that you helped me even when I was being an idiot about it. I love that my daughters adore you and you treat them like they matter. He closed the distance between them. I love you, Victoria, and I'm sorry it took me losing everything to figure out that you're what I should have been fighting for all along. A tear slipped down her cheek and she wiped it away impatiently. You're sure? Because I can't do this if you're going to panic and push me away again the first time I try to help you. I'm sure. And I promise I'll work on not being an idiot, but I can't promise I won't mess up sometimes. I'm still learning how to do this. Do what? Let someone love me. Let myself love someone back. Victoria closed the remaining distance between them and took his hands. I love you too. I have for weeks. It's been killing me not to tell you. So tell me now. I love you, Liam Carter. You frustrating, stubborn, proud man. I love you. He kissed her then, pulling her close, and it felt like coming home after being lost for too long. She kissed him back with equal intensity, her hands fisting in his shirt, and when they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I'm still angry at you, Victoria said. That's fair. And we need to actually talk about how to handle this kind of thing in the future, set boundaries, communicate better, all of that. Whatever you need. What I need is for you to trust me and to trust yourself. We're partners, Liam. That means we help each other. It doesn't make you weak to accept help. It makes you smart. I'm working on believing that. Work faster. But she was smiling, and her hands were still holding his shirt like she didn't plan to let go anytime soon. They moved to the couch and talked until after midnight, actually talked this time, about his fears and her expectations, about how to balance his independence with their relationship, about what partnership actually looked like when the power dynamics were so skewed. I don't want you to feel small, Victoria said at one point. That's the last thing I want. But I also can't pretend I don't have resources that could help you. We have to find a middle ground. What if the middle ground is I accept your help, but I also get better at asking for it instead of waiting until everything's on fire? That could work. And maybe I get better at offering help without taking over completely. Deal. Around 1 a.m., Liam's phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Please tell me you're at Victoria's. I am. And? We're working it out. Finally. I was about to stage an intervention. Thanks for the vote of confidence. You're welcome. Now, apologize properly and don't screw this up again. Victoria read the exchange over his shoulder and laughed. I like your sister. She's a pain in my ass. So am I, apparently. The best kind of pain. They fell asleep on her couch, tangled together, and Liam woke up around 3 with a crick in his neck and Victoria drooling slightly on his shoulder. It was uncomfortable and imperfect and absolutely perfect. He extracted himself carefully and called for a car home, leaving Victoria a note on the counter. Had to get home to the twins. Thank you for giving me another chance. I won't waste it. I love you. L. The twins were already awake when he got home, sitting at the kitchen table with Maya, who gave him a knowing smirk. Walk of shame? She asked. We fell asleep on the couch. Nothing happened. Sure it didn't. Aunt Maya, Sophie said, did you tell her you love her? I did. And she said it back? She did. Both twins erupted in cheers, and Emma launched herself at him for a hug. Does this mean she's your girlfriend for real now? Yeah, sweetheart. For real this time. Good. We missed her. Maya left after breakfast, but not before cornering Liam at the door. Don't mess this up again, she said. I won't. I'm serious. That woman loves you, and you love her. Don't let your pride ruin it. I learned my lesson, Maya. I promise. She hugged him fiercely. Good. Because if you hurt her again, I'm taking her side. The next few weeks were a careful rebuilding. Liam and Victoria took it slow, relearning how to be together without the crisis that had defined their early relationship. They had dinner with the twins twice a week, coffee before her meetings, long phone calls where they talked about nothing important. But they also talked about the hard stuff, about Pinnacle and what to do about the sabotage, about Liam's business, and whether it was worth fighting to save, about their future and what it could look like. Victoria connected him with lawyers who specialized in corporate harassment cases. Together they built a case against Pinnacle, documenting the sabotage, the false permit claims, the shell company set up with North Point. It wasn't a quick process, but it was thorough. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, Liam realized something important. The project he'd been fighting for, the community development plan that had consumed his life for months, wasn't what mattered most anymore. What mattered was building something sustainable, something that could actually help people long term. He met with Jennifer Park one more time, not about funding, but about advice. If you could start over, he asked her, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? Jennifer leaned back in her chair, studying him. I'd focus less on the single big project and more on building a sustainable model. Multiple smaller projects, diversified funding sources, community ownership built in from the start. That's harder to fund. It's also harder to sabotage, and it's more resilient long term. The conversation stayed with him. That night, he talked it through with Victoria. What if I pivot, he said. Let the Riverside project go. Use what I've learned to build something smarter. You'd give up on something you've worked on for 8 months? I'd give up on one version of it to build a better version. The community still needs help. I can still provide it, just differently. Victoria was quiet, turning her wine glass in those familiar slow circles. That's very mature of you. Don't sound so surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm impressed. She set down her glass. How can I help? And this time, Liam didn't bristle at the offer. This time, he took her hand and said, let's figure it out together. They spent the next month building a new model. Victoria brought her business expertise, her understanding of sustainable financing, her network of investors who actually cared about impact. Liam brought his community relationships, his vision for what development could look like when it served people instead of displacing them. It was a real partnership, the kind where they both contributed equally, where neither one dominated. And slowly, painfully, Liam learned to accept help without feeling like he was failing. The lawsuit against Pinnacle settled quietly. No admission of wrongdoing, but enough of a payout to give Liam breathing room to rebuild. The Riverside project was dead, but something better was taking its shape. 3 months after their reconciliation, Victoria showed up at Liam's house on a Saturday morning with pastries and an idea. What if we did this together, she said. Not just the planning, but actually building it. What if I invested directly, we created a formal partnership, and you led the execution? Liam looked at her across his kitchen table. You want to go into business with me? I want to build something that matters with someone I love. Is that so crazy? It's not crazy. It's just big. We can handle big. Can we? Victoria reached across the table and took his hand. We've handled everything else. Sabotage, pride, fear, self-destruction. I think we can handle a business partnership. What about when we disagree? Then we disagree and work through it like adults. What about when I try to take over? Then I tell you to back off, and you listen because you respect me. What about when you get in your head about not being good enough? Then you remind me that I am, and I try to believe you. They sat there, hands clasped, years of damage and weeks of rebuilding between them, and Liam thought about how far they'd come. From strangers at a restaurant to this, real partnership, real trust, real love. Okay, he said, let's do it. Yeah? Yeah, let's build something together. Victoria smiled, bright and genuine, and Liam leaned across the table to kiss her. The twins chose that moment to come thundering downstairs, of course, and caught them mid-kiss. Gross, Sophie declared. Are you getting married now? Emma asked hopefully. Not today, Liam said. But someday, Sophie pressed. He looked at Victoria, at the woman who'd somehow become essential to his life despite every obstacle they'd faced. Maybe someday, definitely someday, Victoria corrected quietly, and Liam's heart stumbled in his chest. Yeah, definitely someday. 1 year later, Liam stood in the same restaurant where everything had started, watching rain sheet down the windows in thick curtains that blurred the city into watercolor. Marcello's looked exactly the same. Same low lighting, same cloth napkins, same hostess who'd greeted Victoria by name that first night. But everything else had changed. He checked his phone for the 4th time in 10 minutes. Victoria was running late, caught in traffic according to her last text. The twins were with Maya for the weekend, already informed that something important was happening tonight, though Liam had refused to give details. Sophie had guessed immediately, of course, her eyes going wide before launching into wedding planning mode. Emma had just hugged him and said she was happy. The ring box felt heavy in his jacket pocket. Mr. Carter? The hostess approached with a knowing smile. Your table is ready whenever you'd like to be seated. I'll wait for her, thanks. Of course. Liam turned back to the window and thought about the past year. It had been messy and complicated and nothing like the neat resolution he'd imagined when they'd first decided to build something together. But it had been real, and that mattered more than perfect. The business partnership had launched 6 months ago. Carter Hale Community Development, a name they'd argued about for 2 weeks before Victoria had finally worn him down. The company focused on small-scale community-driven projects with sustainable funding models and local ownership built in from the start. They'd completed their first development 3 months ago, a mixed-use building in South Seattle that included affordable housing, commercial space for local businesses, and a community center that actually served the neighborhood instead of just looking good in marketing materials. It wasn't the grand vision Liam had originally chased with the Riverside project. It was smaller, slower, harder to fund. But it worked, and it helped real people in tangible ways. More importantly, he and Victoria had figured out how to work together without killing each other. There had been fights, of course. Disagreements about direction and spending and hiring, times when Victoria's instinct to control clashed with Liam's need for autonomy, when his pride butted up against her experience. But they'd learned to navigate it, to recognize when they were falling into old patterns and course correct before things got destructive. It helped that they'd also learned to keep some parts of their lives separate. Victoria still ran her own company, still dealt with her board and her developments and the 80-hour weeks that came with running a billion-dollar operation. Liam handled the day-to-day of Carter Hale, managed the community relationships, kept his hands dirty with the actual work. They consulted each other constantly, but they weren't joined at the hip. It was balance, hard-won, and constantly maintained. The door opened and Victoria rushed in, shaking rain from her coat. She spotted him immediately, and her face lit up in a way that still made his chest tight, even after a year. "Sorry I'm late," she said, reaching him slightly breathless. "The traffic was insane, and then I had a call that ran over, and—" Liam kissed her, cutting off the explanation. When he pulled back, she was smiling. "Hi," she said. "Hi yourself. You look nervous. Everything okay?" "Everything's fine, just hungry." They were seated at the same table they'd had a year ago, by the window overlooking the rain-soaked street. Victoria ordered without looking at the menu, and Liam did the same, both of them falling into the comfortable rhythm they'd developed over countless dinners. "How were the girls today?" Victoria asked after the waiter left. "Excited. Maya's taking them to some movie they've been dying to see." "Which one?" "I don't know. Something animated with talking animals. They all blend together at this point." Victoria laughed, and Liam watched her across the table, memorizing the moment. She looked happy, more relaxed than he'd ever seen her during those first few months, like she'd finally figured out how to exist outside of work mode. Her hair was down, she was wearing the green sweater he loved, and there was an easiness to her that hadn't been there before. "What?" she asked, catching him staring. "Nothing. Just thinking about how much has changed. Good changes, I hope. Mostly good, some terrifying. Such as? Such as realizing I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." Victoria's expression softened. "That's terrifying?" "A little. I spent so long convinced I was better off alone that needing someone feels dangerous. And yet here we are. Here we are." Their food arrived and they ate slowly, talking about everything and nothing. The new project proposal they were reviewing, Sophie's latest obsession with learning guitar, Emma's campaign to adopt a dog despite Liam's repeated refusals. Normal things, domestic things, the kind of conversation that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Liam waited until dessert to bring up the real reason he'd insisted on Marcello's. "Do you remember our first dinner here?" he asked. Victoria smiled. "How could I forget? I had a minor breakdown when my card was declined. You handled it with a lot more grace than I would have. I wanted to disappear into the floor. You saved me from complete humiliation. I just paid for dinner. You did more than that. You made me feel like it wasn't the end of the world, like one embarrassing moment didn't define everything." She reached across the table and took his hand. "That's when I knew you were different. You saw me at my worst and didn't judge me for it. Your worst wasn't that bad. You haven't seen me during quarterly board meetings. I've seen you stressed. I've seen you angry and frustrated and ready to throw your laptop out a window. I've seen you at 3 a.m. working on proposals that didn't need to be perfect, but you made perfect anyway." Liam squeezed her hand. "And I love all of it, even the parts that drive me crazy." "I drive you crazy?" "Constantly, in the best way." Victoria's eyes were bright, and Liam knew he needed to do this now before he lost his nerve. He stood up, pulling the ring box from his pocket, and watched her expression shift from confusion to understanding to something that might have been hope. "Liam, let me say this before I panic and sit back down." He opened the box, revealing the ring he'd spent 2 months choosing. Simple, elegant, a single diamond that had cost more than he was comfortable with, but less than Victoria probably expected. A year ago, I was standing under the awning outside trying to convince myself to leave before you showed up. I was so sure this was a mistake, so convinced I didn't belong in your world that I almost walked away before we even started. I'm glad you didn't, Victoria said quietly. Me too, because this year has been the best year of my life. Not because everything was perfect, it wasn't, but because I got to go through all of it with you, the good stuff and the hard stuff and everything in between. Liam took a breath. You make me want to be better. Not because I'm not good enough for you, but because you make me believe I can be more than I thought I could be. You make me braver and stronger and less afraid of letting people in. Tears were streaming down Victoria's face now, but she was smiling. I love you, Liam continued. I love your strength and your kindness, and the way you never let me get away with my own bullshit. I love that you love my daughters like they're yours. I love that you challenge me and support me and somehow manage to do both at the same time. He dropped to one knee, aware of the other diners starting to notice but not caring. Victoria Hale, will you marry me? For a second that felt like an eternity. She just stared at him. Then she was nodding, tears falling faster, words tumbling out. Yes, yes, of course, yes, yes. Liam slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and then she was pulling him up and kissing him, laughing and crying at the same time. The restaurant erupted in applause, and Liam heard someone call for champagne, but all he could focus on was Victoria in his arms, saying yes, choosing him despite every reason she'd had to walk away. They stayed at Marcello's for another hour, fielding congratulations from strangers and trying to process what had just happened. Victoria kept looking at the ring like she couldn't quite believe it was real. I can't believe you proposed here, she said eventually, at the scene of my most embarrassing moment. I wanted to turn it into a good memory. Mission accomplished. She looked at him, her expression suddenly serious. You know my board is going to have opinions about this. Let them have opinions, and there will be a prenup discussion. I assumed there would be. And my schedule is insane, and I'm not great at work-life balance, and I'll probably drive you crazy with how much I try to plan everything. Victoria. Liam took her hands. I know who you are. All of it. And I'm still here. I'm still asking you to marry me. Because I don't want a perfect person with a perfect life. I want you exactly as you are. She kissed him again, softer this time. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. We both deserve this. They drove back to Victoria's penthouse through the rain, and Liam called Maya from the car to break the news. Finally, Maya practically shouted. I've been waiting for you to get your act together for months. Did she say yes? She said yes. Of course she did. She's smarter than you are. Maya paused. How are you feeling? Terrified, happy, both. That sounds about right. Can we tell the girls? Not yet. I want to tell them in person tomorrow. They're going to lose their minds. Sophie's already designed 3 different wedding cakes. Of course she has. After he hung up, Victoria was watching him with amusement. Your sister is very invested in our relationship. She's been planning our wedding since the first date. Smart woman. They spent the rest of the night on her couch, talking about the future in a way they hadn't allowed themselves to before. Wedding timelines and living arrangements, and how to blend their lives without losing themselves in the process. It wasn't all romantic declarations. There were practical discussions about the twins and custody schedules, and whether Victoria's penthouse was the right place to raise a family, or if they should find something new together. I want the girls to feel like it's their home too, Victoria said, not just a place they visit when they're with us. You sure you want to take on full-time parenting? It's not the same as weekend visits. I'm sure. I love them, Liam. They're part of you, which means they're part of us. They can be a lot. So can I. We'll figure it out. Around midnight, Victoria fell asleep against his shoulder, and Liam sat there in the quiet penthouse thinking about how impossibly lucky he was. A year ago, he'd been drowning, convinced he was going to lose everything. Now he had a business that mattered, a woman he loved who loved him back, and a future that looked nothing like the one he'd imagined but was better in every way that counted. The next morning, Liam picked up the twins from Maya's and took them out for breakfast. They knew something was up. He never took them to the fancy pancake place unless it was a special occasion. Did you ask Victoria to marry you? Sophie demanded before they'd even ordered. What makes you think I was going to ask her to marry me? Because you had that look yesterday. The nervous look. Emma leaned forward. Did she say yes? Liam pulled out his phone and showed them the photo he'd taken of Victoria's hand with the ring on it. Both girls erupted in squeals loud enough to turn heads in the restaurant. Does this mean she's going to be our stepmom? Emma asked. If that's okay with you guys. Are you kidding? We love her. Sophie was practically bouncing in her seat. Can we call her Mom? The question caught Liam off guard. I don't know, sweetheart. That's something you'd have to talk to her about. What if she doesn't want us to? Then you call her Victoria, and that's fine too. What matters is that she loves you and you love her. The name doesn't change that. They spent breakfast planning the wedding with the kind of elaborate detail only 9-year-olds could manage. Sophie wanted doves and a chocolate fountain, and for the ceremony to be at the Space Needle. Emma wanted everyone to wear purple, and for there to be a dog in the wedding party. Liam listened and took notes and tried not to think about what Victoria's reaction would be to a purple-themed Space Needle wedding with doves and a dog. Later that afternoon, they went to Victoria's penthouse for dinner. She'd spent the day cooking, actually cooking, not ordering in, and the kitchen smelled like garlic and something that might have been burning. I'm attempting chicken parmesan, she announced when they arrived. It's either going to be amazing or inedible, no in between. The twins hugged her, both talking at once about the wedding and their ideas, and could they please have a dog in the ceremony. Victoria handled the chaos with patience, answering their questions seriously, and Liam watched from the doorway, feeling his chest get tight. This was his family, imperfect and chaotic, and held together by choice rather than obligation. And it was everything. Dinner was slightly burned but edible, and they ate at Victoria's dining table that finally felt too big because it was meant for 12, and there were only 4 of them. Afterward, while Liam was cleaning up, he heard Victoria talking quietly with the twins in the living room. Can we call you Mom? Sophie was asking. Or is that weird? It's not weird at all, Victoria said. But you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm not trying to replace anyone. We don't remember our mom, Emma said matter-of-factly. She left when we were little. You're the only mom we've really had. Then I'd be honored if you wanted to call me Mom. Liam had to turn away and grip the counter, overwhelmed by the simplicity of it. How easily the twins had accepted Victoria into their lives. How naturally she'd stepped into the role. How much they all needed each other in ways none of them had expected. The following months were a blur of wedding planning and business growth and learning to live together in a way that worked for everyone. They decided to buy a new house rather than try to make either of their existing places work. Something big enough for all of them, but not so big it felt empty. The twins got to pick their rooms, and Victoria insisted on a home office for Liam, even though he protested he didn't need one. You need space that's yours, she'd said, just like I need space that's mine. We can be together and still have our own things. It was another lesson in balance, in understanding that love didn't mean merging into one person, but rather 2 people choosing to build something while staying themselves. Carter Hale continued to grow. They'd taken on 2 more projects, hired a small staff, and established themselves as a viable alternative to the massive development firms that dominated Seattle. It wasn't making them rich. Victoria was already rich, and Liam had learned to be okay with that. But it was sustainable and meaningful, and making a real difference in communities that desperately needed it. Pinnacle Holdings had quietly dissolved after the settlement and some additional SEC investigations Victoria's friend had initiated. Turns out their entire business model had been built on questionable practices, and once someone started actually looking, the whole thing had collapsed. Liam felt a vicious satisfaction about that for exactly 1 day before deciding it wasn't worth the energy. They were gone, he was moving forward, and that was enough. 6 months after the proposal, on a Saturday in early June, Liam and Victoria got married. Not at the Space Needle, despite Sophie's lobbying. Not with doves or a chocolate fountain or a purple color scheme. They'd chosen a small venue in the San Juan Islands, intimate and beautiful, with room for 50 people and a view of the water that took Liam's breath away when he saw it. The ceremony itself was simple. Maya stood up as Liam's best woman, and Victoria's CFO, Sarah, who'd become a close friend over the past year, stood up as her maid of honor. The twins were flower girls wearing matching dresses they'd picked out themselves. And yes, there was a dog. Emma had worn Victoria down eventually, and one of their neighbors had agreed to let them borrow their golden retriever for the ceremony. Liam stood at the altar watching Victoria walk toward him, and thought about how impossible this would have seemed 2 years ago. How convinced he'd been that he was better off alone, that letting someone in would only lead to pain, that he wasn't capable of building something real with another person. He'd been wrong about all of it. Victoria reached him and took his hands, her eyes bright with tears and happiness, and the officiant began the ceremony. Liam barely heard the words. He was too focused on Victoria's face, on the way she was looking at him like he was the only person in the world who mattered, on the absolute certainty that this was right. When it came time for vows, he'd written his own. Short, because long speeches made him uncomfortable, but from the heart. Victoria, a year and a half ago, I was convinced I didn't deserve good things, that I was meant to struggle alone, to carry everything by myself, to never ask for help or admit when I was drowning. You proved me wrong about all of it. He squeezed her hands. You taught me that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That love doesn't make you smaller, it makes you braver. That being vulnerable with someone who deserves it is the strongest thing you can do. His voice cracked slightly. Thank you for not giving up on me when I gave up on us. Thank you for loving my daughters like they're yours. Thank you for building a life with me that's better than anything I could have imagined alone. I promise to keep working on being the partner you deserve. I promise to let you in even when it's scary. And I promise to love you for the rest of my life, exactly as you are. Victoria was crying openly now, not bothering to hide it. When it was her turn, she took a shaky breath. Liam, I spent most of my adult life behind walls, protecting myself, controlling everything, convinced that letting anyone close would only lead to betrayal. You were patient with those walls. You didn't try to break them down. You just kept showing up, kept being honest, kept proving that not everyone wants something from me. She wiped her eyes. You see me. Not my money or my company or what I can do for you, just me. The good parts and the messy parts and everything in between. And you love all of it. Her voice steadied. I promise to trust you, even when my instincts tell me to protect myself. I promise to support your dreams without trying to control them. I promise to love your daughters, our daughters, with everything I have. And I promise to keep choosing you every single day for the rest of our lives. The officiant pronounced them married, and Liam kissed his wife, while their friends and family cheered. The twins rushed forward to hug them both, and Sophie announced loudly that she'd told everyone this would happen, and Emma wanted to know if they could get a dog now that they were a real family. We'll talk about it, Victoria said, and Liam knew the twins had already won that battle. The reception was low-key and perfect. Good food, better wine, dancing that Liam was terrible at, but Victoria loved. Maya gave a toast that was equal parts heartfelt and embarrassing, recounting stories from their childhood that Liam would have preferred remain buried. Sarah spoke about watching Victoria transform over the past year, from someone who worked 80 hours a week and never smiled to someone who actually seemed happy. I didn't think anyone could break through her walls, Sarah said. But Liam did it by just being relentlessly himself. By refusing to be intimidated by her success and refusing to accept anything less than a real partnership. That's rare. That's special. And I'm so happy you found each other. Later, during a quiet moment while everyone else was dancing, Victoria pulled Liam outside to the terrace overlooking the water. How are you doing? She asked. Good. Great, actually. You? Same. She leaned against the railing, looking out at the sunset painting the water in shades of orange and pink. I keep thinking about that first dinner, how close I came to canceling, how sure I was that dating was a waste of time. I almost left before you got there. I know. You told me that in your vows. I mean it, though. If I'd left, if you'd canceled, none of this would have happened. We would have just missed each other. But we didn't. We showed up. We kept showing up even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Victoria turned to face him, her expression serious. I need you to know something. These past 2 years, building the business and the relationship and this life we have, it hasn't been easy. We've fought and struggled and hurt each other and had to learn how to fix it. But I wouldn't change any of it, not one single moment, because all of it led us here. Even the part where I was an idiot and pushed you away, especially that part, because you came back. You fought for us. And that meant everything. Liam pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her waist. I'm going to keep messing up sometimes. I'm still learning how to do this. So am I. We'll figure it out together. Together. I like the sound of that. They stood there as the sun set and the party continued inside, and Liam thought about all the moments that had led them here. The declined credit card and the nervous coffee dates and the business disasters and the pride that had nearly destroyed everything. The second chances and the hard conversations and the slow, painful work of learning to trust someone completely. It hadn't been a fairy tale. There hadn't been a dramatic rescue or a perfect happily ever after. Just two imperfect people choosing each other, over and over, through all the mess and uncertainty and fear. And that, Liam realized, was better than any fairy tale could have been, because it was real. The next morning, they left for a 2-week honeymoon in Italy, while Maya stayed with the twins. Liam had initially protested the length. 2 weeks away from the girls seemed too long, but Victoria had insisted they needed actual time to just be together without work or responsibilities or 9-year-olds interrupting every conversation. She'd been right, of course. They spent the time wandering through Rome and Florence and small villages whose names Liam couldn't pronounce, eating too much pasta and drinking too much wine and talking about everything and nothing. Victoria showed him parts of herself she'd kept hidden, stories from before she'd become the polished businesswoman the world saw. Liam told her about the years after his ex left, about the terror and loneliness and slow rebuilding of a life that had felt completely shattered. "I used to think I was broken," he admitted one night over dinner in a tiny restaurant in Tuscany. "Like something fundamental was wrong with me because I couldn't make it work with their mom, couldn't build a business that succeeded on the first try, couldn't figure out how to be happy alone. And now? Now I think I was just incomplete, not broken, just waiting for the right pieces to fall into place." "That's very philosophical of you." "I blame the wine. And you. You make me think about things differently." "Good. That's what I'm here for." They returned home tanned and relaxed and immediately overwhelmed by the twins' enthusiastic welcome. Sophie had approximately 800 questions about Italy, and Emma had decided she wanted to learn Italian immediately. The new house was ready for move-in, still full of boxes but starting to feel like home. Life settled into a new rhythm. Mornings were chaos, getting the twins ready for school, making sure everyone ate breakfast, the constant hunt for missing shoes and homework assignments. Evenings were quieter, family dinners where everyone talked about their day, homework at the kitchen table while Liam and Victoria prepped for the next day's meetings. Weekends were a mix of the twins' activities and couple time and the endless maintenance that came with owning a house and running a business and building a life. It wasn't perfect. The twins fought with each other and occasionally pushed back against Victoria's rules, testing boundaries the way kids do. Work was stressful and demanding, and there were nights when Liam and Victoria were both too exhausted to do anything but collapse on the couch. They still fought sometimes, still had to navigate the balance between Victoria's instinct to fix everything and Liam's need to solve his own problems. But they showed up for each other. Every single day, they chose each other. One evening, about 8 months after the wedding, Liam came home to find Victoria in the backyard with the twins and a golden retriever puppy. "Don't be mad," Victoria said immediately. "We begged her," Sophie added. "Like, a lot." "His name is Biscuit," Emma announced, holding the squirming puppy. "And he's perfect." Liam looked at his wife, at his daughters, at the puppy that was definitely going to destroy at least 3 pairs of shoes before they figured out training, and he started laughing. "You couldn't resist them, could you?" "They made a very compelling presentation," Victoria said, "complete with charts and statistics about the benefits of pet ownership. I taught them well. Too well. I never stood a chance." That night, after the twins were asleep and the puppy was contained in his crate, Liam and Victoria sat on their back porch watching the stars. "Are you happy?" Victoria asked quietly. "Yeah, I really am. You?" "More than I ever thought I could be." She leaned against his shoulder. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong, but it hasn't. We're just happy. We earned it." "Did we?" "We fought for it. We chose it. We built it from scratch, when we could have walked away. Yeah, we earned it." Victoria was quiet for a moment, then said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me when I made it hard. For being patient with my walls and my fear and my need to control everything. For teaching me that letting someone in doesn't mean losing myself." "You taught me the same thing." That accepting help doesn't make me weak. That needing someone isn't failure. That love can be strong and healthy and equal even when the people in it aren't. We're pretty good at this, aren't we? We're learning. That's all anyone can do. They sat there in comfortable silence, and Liam thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. Two people from completely different worlds who probably shouldn't have worked but did anyway, because they'd been willing to do the hard work, to have the difficult conversations, to keep choosing each other even when walking away would have been easier. A year and a half ago, he'd been standing in the rain outside Marcello's, convinced he didn't belong in Victoria's world. Now he understood that they'd built their own world together, one that didn't belong to either of their old lives, but was uniquely theirs. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was real and honest and built on a foundation solid enough to weather whatever came next. And that was more than enough. That was everything. Inside, Biscuit started whimpering, and one of the twins, probably Emma, could be heard sneaking downstairs to comfort him despite strict instructions to stay in bed. Victoria sighed and started to get up, but Liam pulled her back. Let her have a few minutes. He'll settle down. We're going to regret this puppy, aren't you? Absolutely. But the girls will love him, and that's what matters. When did you become so wise about parenting? Since I married someone who makes me want to be better at it. Victoria kissed him, soft and sweet, and Liam thought about how far they'd come. From strangers to partners to this, a family, imperfect and chaotic and absolutely right. The rain started again, gentle drops pattering on the roof of their porch, and Liam remembered that first night. The declined credit card, the awkward conversation, the moment when he'd chosen kindness over judgment and changed both their lives in the process. Sometimes the best things in life came from showing up when you wanted to run, from choosing vulnerability over safety, from believing that good things could happen even when every past experience said otherwise. Sometimes love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone willing to do the work alongside you, to build something real from nothing, to keep choosing each other through all the mess and uncertainty and fear. Liam had spent so long convinced he didn't deserve that kind of love, that he was meant to struggle alone, to protect himself from the pain of needing someone who might leave. But Victoria had proven him wrong, not by being perfect or by fixing all his problems or by making his life easy, but by showing up over and over even when he made it hard, by loving him enough to let him be imperfect, to make mistakes, to find his own way while knowing she was there if he needed her. That was the real gift. Not the money or the connections or the business opportunities, though those had mattered too. The real gift was the trust, the partnership, the absolute certainty that someone saw all of him, the good and the bad and the broken pieces he'd tried so hard to hide, and chose him anyway. Inside, Emma had successfully retrieved the puppy and brought him upstairs, because of course she had. They could hear Sophie's delighted squeal through the window. We should probably go deal with that, Victoria said. Probably. But they sat there for another minute, rain falling around them, hands clasped, building a life one imperfect moment at a time. And it was enough. It was everything. It was theirs.